I'm playing Marvel Legends. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Iron Man vs. Electro, Part 1. What happened? The sudden power outage made Tony Stark frown. You know, unlike other companies, Stark Industries is not connected to the US power grid. All its power supply comes from the giant arc reactor on the -2nd floor. The energy supply of the giant arc reactor is very stable, and Tony will regularly replace the power materials for it. The security measures on the -2nd floor are very strict, and it is theoretically impossible to cut off the power, unless the network of the main circuit or the control circuit is damaged. Jarvis. What's going on? Unlike other power sources, as Tony Stark's personal butler and combat auxiliary system, Jarvis has a separate energy supply reactor. Sir, the network has not been attacked. There is no problem with the security of the reactor. Troubleshooting is in progress. Since the transformation, Stark Industries Group's main project has been energy, but now, an energy company has a power outage. Fortunately, Stark Industries is not a listed group now, otherwise once this news comes out, the stock price alone will probably be enough to make Tony feel comfortable for a while. Yes, comfortable. Because in that case, Pepper would be too busy, and Tony could also steal a ray of leisure from the quarrel between the two women. Jarvis, prepare Mark 10, I want to see who is behind it. Tony said with a startled look. Let me go with you. Hela also stood up and said. Although Hela had been quarreling with Pepper openly and secretly during this period, she was actually very inferior in her heart. As Tony's right-hand man, Pepper has a strong ability to manage the company, and Tony himself is Iron Man. The two of them, one outside and one inside, cooperated perfectly. Compared with Pepper, Hela could rarely help Tony, which made Hela feel that he was redundant. For this reason, even quarreling with Pepper was a little lacking in confidence, and often fell into a disadvantage. Now that Stark Industries has problems, she, a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, naturally stood up and wanted to share some of Tony's burden. Looking at Hela's belly, Tony couldn't help but smile. Who do you think I am, a gigolo? I am your man, I am Iron Man. Pepper, keep an eye on her and don't cause me any trouble. You two. Stay here and wait for me to come back. I'll see who is more obedient, and tonight. It's been 3 months now. Tony tried his best to act as if he was at ease, so that the two ladies would feel more at ease. Sir, Mark 10 is ready. As soon as the words fell, Tony crossed his hands in front of him. In an instant, countless steel armor parts flew out of the warehouse on their own and were equipped on Tony. After a simple transformation, the gold and red Mark 10 armor suddenly appeared in front of the two women. At this point in the original plot, Tony's Mark series armor had only been iterated to the 6th generation. But in order to deal with Obadiah, the anti-cyber armor made of vibranium was born. After seeing the tip of the iceberg of the Ancient One's strength, Tony accelerated the development of the Mark series armor. Compared with the previous generation of armor, Mark 10 is equipped with an anti-gravity device, which greatly improves its strength and speed. Compared with the 6th generation armor in the original plot, the speed alone has increased by more than 3 times. The enhanced chest armor and improved footstep thrusters make Mark 10 more defensive and more stable. Vibranium is no longer affordable, but Tony still improved the structure of the original gold titanium alloy plate to make it lighter without affecting the performance. In short, the first impression of Mark 10 is its powerful combat power and cool appearance. The eyes of a lover are beautiful, and the eyes of a beauty are eye boogers. Looking at Tony Stark again at this time, whether it is Pepper or Hela, their eyes are full of admiration, and of course, they are also accompanied by full of worry. Jarvis, protect them. As Tony's voice fell, the wall immediately sank, revealing more than 20 black gun muzzles. Seeing this, Hela was horrified. When did it happen? Why don't I smell gunpowder? As a top agent, Hela is very sensitive to the smell of ammunition. Having lived here for a while, Hela never noticed that Tony had left a backup here. Madam, these are laser weapons, and they are not equipped with traditional ammunition. Jarvis' voice rang out in the house, answering Hela's doubts. Madam? Well. Very good. Hela was very satisfied with Jarvis's address. His eyes subconsciously glanced at Pepper not far away. Seeing this, Pepper became anxious. Jarvis. Pepper said. Madam, I'm at your service at any time. Not to mention the quarrel between the two women, Tony Stark had already driven Mark 10 to the periphery of the Stark building at this time, and explored the situation inside the building through infrared thermal scanning. Soon, a red and purple figure appeared in his sight. Good guy, it turns out that you are the one who did it. After saying that, Tony immediately smashed the one-way visible bulletproof glass of the building and appeared directly beside Max. Mr. Monster, didn't anyone tell you that you will go to jail for stealing electricity? Tony said with a cold face. Iron Man. Max was instantly interested when he saw Tony. The man in front of him was a big star. He didn't expect that he could be so close to a big star. Max was very happy at this time. Although he missed his birthday and made himself look like this, he still felt honored to meet a top rich man like Tony. Thinking of this, Max subconsciously walked towards Tony. However, what greeted him was only a pulse cannon from Tony. Boom! A golden beam of light spewed out from the palm of Mark 10 and directly hit Max, who was unprepared. The powerful shock wave immediately knocked Max back again and again. It stopped only after it crashed through dozens of walls and knocked Max out of Stark Tower. He climbed up from the ground with difficulty and looked at the charred area on his chest. Max felt that he had returned to the moment when he was burned by the mutant electric eel. Panic, anger. All kinds of complex emotions instantly flooded Max's brain. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Even you want to bully me? Max roared to the sky, an endless electric light burst out of his body, arcs wandered in the air, and thunder cheered on the ground. Apart from anything else, Tony could give the other party a full score just for the light and shadow effects. You stole my home appliances, and you dare to be so arrogant. From the scene, Tony already knew that the other party was not easy to mess with. But what does it matter? Who is he? Iron Man. Facing such a criminal who stole electricity from his own home, Tony would never let him go. The entire Stark building, thousands of employees, and the power outage at this moment have caused huge economic losses to Stark Industries. What's more, if he doesn't teach the other party a lesson, where will he, Tony Stark, put his face? In the future, won't anyone come to Stark Industries to make trouble? In any case, let's beat him up first, and whether to hand him over to SHIELD or the US government is a matter for the future. Thinking of this, Tony immediately turned on the leg thrusters to the maximum power, raised his fist, and flew towards Max in the shape of Astro Boy. Chapter 202 Iron Man vs. Electro, Part 2. Tony's fist was about to hit Max, but Max instinctively pushed forward with both hands. Instantly, countless arcs of electricity shot out from Max's palms, and wrapped around Mark X like strands of thin threads, and Mark X was stopped in the air. Damn it, another guy who plays with electricity. If I had known, I should have worn Mark IV. Tony thought secretly in his heart. Of course, the Mark IV he was thinking of was not the one in the original plot, but the anti-steel armor. That set of armor that Tony spent countless efforts and money to build was the only one mixed with vibranium. From absorbing and rebounding energy, to the sturdy structure, to the strength that was increased at the expense of flexibility, Mark IV was completely developed according to Obadiah's ability to restrain him. And Max in front of him, like Obadiah at the beginning, had the ability to discharge electricity, so Tony Stark thought of Mark IV at the first time. Max, on the other side, saw his own power again and looked at his hands in amazement. Did I really do this? If I defeat Iron Man, I will definitely be liked by more people, just like they admire Iron Man. Thinking of this, Max's hands instantly flashed with lightning, and lightning as thick as his arms shot towards Tony Stark like arrows in the sky. Sir, 120% energy, 150% energy, 180% energy. Jarvis' voice sounded in Tony Stark's ears. That's it. Tony Stark glanced at Max with disdain. Since the body can't get through, why not try that trick? Thinking of this, the armor plates on Mark 10's shoulders immediately unfolded layer by layer. 6 on each side, a total of 12 micro-missiles, immediately shot towards Max under the impetus of a burst of white tail flames. These 12 micro-missiles are Tony's masterpiece. Although they are small in size, their explosive power is not inferior to those big guys. After Jarvis's precise calculations, these 12 micro-missiles alone are enough to completely wipe out a certain funny shrine in Fuso, including its foundation and courtyard. If Tony had not had sufficient confidence in the building structure of Stark Industries, he would not dare to use these micro-missiles at such a close distance. You control me with 2 hands, but you don't necessarily have a 3rd hand to deal with these missiles. Tony Stark thought secretly in his heart. But the next second, Tony was dumbfounded. When the 12 micro-missiles were about to approach Max, they were actually silenced by Max's iron breath. Bang bang bang, a series of crisp landing sounds rang out, which was particularly eye-catching in this huge square. Sir, the target's iron breath just now destroyed the detonator in the missile. Jarvis explained in Tony's ear. Then concentrate your energy and shoot him directly with a cluster gun on your chest. Tony was completely aroused by this and immediately gave the order. Ding ding ding. As soon as the voice fell, the circle around the arc reactor on Mark 10's chest lit up like a revolving lantern. Seeing that the cluster gun was about to fire, Max's figure turned into countless arcs and disappeared in the blink of an eye like thunder. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Tony. No one can stop me from moving forward. I will become the brightest star. As he spoke, Max's palm directly pressed on the arc reactor on Mark 10's chest. At this moment, the powerful electric current, like a rushing flood, surged out of the arc reactor and gathered on Max. As the saying goes, sooner or later, you will pay for what you have done. When dealing with Obadiah, Tony relied on the power storage characteristics of the Mark series armor and was almost immune to Obadiah's plasma cannon. Now, Max, like Tony back then, absorbs the electrical energy in the enemy's body. When the energy storage meets the energy absorption, Tony is in a bad state. Squeak. Squeak. As more and more electrical energy is accumulated in his body, Max's strength is increasing rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, the arc reactor on Tony Stark's chest no longer has a light. Restrained. This is thorough restraint. Max has proved a fact with his actual actions that Tony Stark now has no power to fight back in his hands. Ha ha ha. Iron Man is defeated, Iron Man is defeated. I am stronger than Iron Man. I am the real most dazzling star. Max's face was full of joy, and even his face, which had become extremely hideous due to the mutation, became even more hideous. Jarvis. Jarvis. Tony Stark called Jarvis over and over again in the Mark 10 armor, but now the Mark 10 has no energy at all, so how could Jarvis answer Tony? The main material of the Mark 10 is gold titanium alloy, and some parts are made of other materials such as fiberglass. It is so heavy that if it were not for the mechanical structure, Tony would have no chance to control the armor by relying on his own physical strength. It was also thanks to the help of Stephen Strange and Marfa that Tony solved the shrapnel in his body earlier. Otherwise, if the arc reactor in his chest stopped supplying energy, Tony might not only be unable to control the armor. How about activating the emergency escape device and escaping from the armor? Tony thought so in his heart, but he quickly denied this idea. The monsters outside have superpowers, but Tony himself is an ordinary person who is no different from ordinary people except for his brain and giant python. If he really left the armor, wouldn't he be like a fish on the chopping board, at the mercy of others? It was not right to leave, nor to stay. Tony Stark was so depressed for a while. Everyone has to die, some are heavier than Mount Tai, some are lighter than a feather. Your death can make me known to the world, and can make me admired and respected by countless people. Go with peace of mind. As soon as the voice fell, Max immediately punched Mark 10's visor. Ouch! With a shrill scream, Max's face turned from blue to red, from red to white, and then from white to blue. Like a child who kicked an iron plate, he covered his fist and showed a grinning face. It hurts. It hurts so much. It turns out that I am just a mage and have no close combat ability. Max thought so in his heart. As the saying goes, there is gain and loss. At the beginning, Obadiah transformed himself into a cyborg, and then used the electric ray gene and Hulk serum for biological energy. Although the electric ray gene was affected by the Hulk serum, Obadiah's control of lightning was far inferior to Max, but he was a complete magic warrior. And Max. Now, his physical strength is only slightly higher than that of ordinary people. The reason why Tony has repeatedly chosen gold titanium alloy as the main material of the Mark series armor is largely due to its hard texture and stable structure. It is completely a dream to want to break the exoskeleton armor made of gold titanium alloy with 1 or 2 times the strength of ordinary people. Since physical attacks don't work, let's try lightning. After saying that, Max immediately stretched out his left hand. Don't ask why it's not the right hand, it hurts. In an instant, Max's left hand was shining with lightning, and the azure arc of electricity jumped wildly in his palm. Squeak. Squeak. The noisy sound echoed all around, like thousands of birds chirping. Boom. Max slapped Mark 10 on the chest. A huge roar suddenly sounded. Tony Stark and Mark 10 were immediately knocked away by Max more than 10 meters away. Like a pile of scrap copper and iron, after hitting the curb several times in a row, it finally stopped. Sir, 10% of energy. Listening to Jarvis's very kind voice, Tony Stark couldn't help but burst into tears. What the hell is this? It seems that whether Mark 10 can move or not is not up to me, but depends on the other party's mood. Tony thought so, but he couldn't help but think of the bald man who called himself the Supreme Sorcerer. Maybe I should go to the so-called Kamartaj. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Happy Tony. P.S. To explain, the lobster's explanation for Max's behavior is that he has just completed the mutation and does not understand his own body, so he directly punches and jumps into the water. Just like a newbie playing a game, there are always some mysterious operations. This is not that the lobster deliberately lowers Max's intelligence, but the plot is written based on Max's performance and actual situation in the movie. At this time, Max was also very entangled in his heart. Is it considered a defeat if he is unable to kill the opponent? Indeed, with Max's ability, he can easily restrain Iron Man and even directly deprive him of the energy in his armor, making him unable to move. But Max can't break the turtle shell of Mark 10 with the power of thunder and lightning. As for physical strength, don't mention it, my right hand is still hurting now. Then how can I use Iron Man as a pedal to make myself famous in the world and respected by the world? Max thought so in his heart. Soon, his eyes fell on an artificial river not far away. Yes. Would the robot short-circuit when it encounters water? As an electrical engineer, Max has seen a lot of such things. Most high-precision machines, once flooded, will be completely useless. And what about me? Apart from anything else, looking at this body of scales, and thinking about the source of my ability, I can see that I have a strong ability to swim. As long as I drag Iron Man into the water and charge him. I am so smart. Thinking of this, Max immediately became interested. Without waiting for Tony to react, he turned into lightning and came in front of Tony. Then, without saying a word, he slapped the arc reactor on Mark 10's chest. Beep, the energy was sucked dry again, and the electronic display in front of Tony Stark dimmed again. Tony. What the hell, I am Iron Man, don't I have any dignity? However, the next second, Max grabbed Mark 10's ankle like a chicken and dragged him towards the artificial river. Damn it. Kiddo. What do you want to do? Tony was shocked and seemed to have thought of something. Under normal circumstances, it would be no problem for Mark 10 to go into the water. Max underestimated Tony Stark after all. The Mark series armor has been equipped with diving functions since number 5. Not to mention the artificial river, even if he is thrown into the Pacific Ocean, there is no problem. Water inflow? Leakage? Short circuit? Tony would not think of this problem. However, another problem is something that Tony Stark cannot solve at the moment. Oxygen. That's right, it's oxygen. Without energy, the oxygen supply system of the iron armor will naturally not function properly. If Max threw him into the river at this time, wouldn't he be suffocated to death? If he left the armor, he would be killed on the spot. If he stayed in the armor, he would be suffocated sooner or later. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, Tony panicked immediately. Seeing that he was getting closer and closer to the artificial river, Tony could no longer remain calm. He only hated why he had nothing to do to build an artificial river. Was he bored? Or did he have too much money to bite people? Bang bang. With 2 gunshots, 2 armor-piercing bullets flew at high speed and hit Max's face directly. At the critical moment, Max opened his hand and an electromagnetic barrier immediately appeared in front of him, completely protecting his body in it. You dare to touch my man, you don't know how to write the word death. Maria Hill's domineering voice came from a distance. It's just a bullet. Max, who had just defeated Iron Man, was completely floating at this time. He didn't take Hill seriously at all. Stupid woman, run. You are not his opponent. Tony Stark, who witnessed all this in Mark 10, was very anxious and shouted immediately. Just shut up and wait quietly for me to save you. Just as Pepper and Hill were Tony's weaknesses, in Hill's view, Tony was also the most important person to her. Her man was bullied, that was too much. Therefore, after some tricks, Hill only spent a little time and slipped out from Jarvis' protection. The 9th level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not exaggerated. As the most promising talent of Nick Fury, Hill is fully worthy of the 9th level in terms of combat ability and command ability. Love it, love it. Why didn't I realize that Hill has such a queen-like side before? Full of the feeling of being pampered. It's worthy of the same name as my mother. At this time, Hill fell into Tony's eyes, like a queen in a battlesuit, heroic and domineering, and her every move was so unique. If I can resolve this crisis, I must play a role-playing game with Hill. It's so exciting. Tony thought secretly in his heart. Unlike Tony, Max didn't take the woman with a gun in the distance seriously at all. Now, he only has Iron Man in his eyes. As long as he can short-circuit him, no matter whether he dies or not, he will win completely. Facts have proved that there is a price to pay for underestimating a woman who has gone crazy. Bang! Bang! The gunshots rang out again, and Max, who was originally careless, trembled inexplicably. The sense of crisis derived from animal instincts instantly filled his heart. Although this feeling is far inferior to spider sense, it is enough to attract Max's attention. Max subconsciously turned sideways. The next second, he saw an armor-piercing bullet passing directly across his chest, with a trace of blood, and disappeared from Max's sight. How is it possible? My electromagnetic barrier is clearly enough to block her bullet. If I hadn't turned sideways just now, that bullet would not only have cut Max's skin, but would have gone straight through his heart. Unlike Max, Tony saw the scene clearly. The bullets fired by Hill were like a straight line. The former was suspended in the air due to the blockage of the electromagnetic barrier and lost its power. The latter hit the previous bullet with great accuracy, giving it powerful kinetic energy again. In addition, the gun in Hill's hand was originally a special sniper rifle handmade by Tony, and the bullet was also an armor-piercing bullet. Therefore, he was able to injure Max with this kind of shooting skill that could be called a divine skill. Good guy, my Hill is amazing. Through this battle, Tony's perception of Hill was completely overturned. Tony didn't know Hill's identity at first, but as the two got along, Tony finally won Hill. It was just that Hill confessed everything to Tony after giving her virginity. According to Tony's original idea, he would never sleep with the same woman twice. However, Hill is Hill after all. It's not just because she has the same name as Tony's mother, but more importantly, as an agent, Hill has a unique temperament. In addition, years of training have made Hill's body very flexible. Splits and bending are just a drizzle for Hill. As long as Tony can think of it, Hill can do it. He never gets tired of doing various poses. And all this is exactly what Pepper can't do. Compared with Hill's unrestrained and exciting, Pepper is more reserved and traditional. Posing? Doing tricks? Don't even think about it. And today, Hill's domineering declaration and his astonishing shooting skills have undoubtedly given Tony new inspiration again. One is responsible for the outside, the other is responsible for the inside, one is unrestrained, the other is reserved, one manages the company, the other accompanies me to travel the world with a sword. I am really a happy man. Tony thought so in his heart. Chapter 204 Bionic Robot. Damn Woodman. Max was naturally shocked by Hill's sudden attack. Although he already had great power, whether in terms of combat awareness or thinking, Max was still the Black Power engineer who was looked down upon by Osborn Industries. It's okay to be almost shot through the heart. Max was angry, and subconsciously felt a little fear for the woman in front of him. After all, Iron Man had relied on sneak attacks to hurt him before. Thinking of this, Max casually aimed at a Maybach in the distance and lifted it up through electromagnetic force. Immediately, like throwing a baseball, he threw it towards Hill's position. Run. Seeing this scene, Tony was very anxious and shouted immediately. However, Hill's mouth was slightly raised, and he didn't seem to care at all. He took out a grenade from his waist, put down the gun in his hand, and rushed towards the flying Maybach without retreating. With a sliding tackle, Hill easily dodged the impact of the car, and even threw the grenade on the windshield of the Maybach. Boom. The explosion sounded, and the grenade exploded just 1 second before the car was about to hit the Stark Industrial Building. The flames shot up to the sky, the sound waves were loud, and the whole car was blown into pieces on the spot. The sturdy woman never looked back at the explosion. With a brisk pace, Hill trotted towards Max. Fuck. This woman, is she kidding? Even Max was shocked by Hill's coquettish operation just now. Seeing Hill running towards him, Max also quickened his pace, trying to drag Tony into the water first. Of course, in order to stop Hill, Max did not forget to throw a few electric balls at Hill. Bang bang bang. But at this time, Hill was like a killing god, and he didn't know where he pulled out a rubber stick, and the shadow of the stick was heavy, but all the electric balls that approached her were shot down by Hill one by one without exception. Nice. You are worthy of being my woman. Tony couldn't help but feel delighted when he saw Hill's majestic appearance. At this time, the good girl Pepper Potts, who was still on the top floor of the Stark Industrial Building, observing the entire battle with a telescope, was also shocked by Hill. Hiss. Awesome, worthy of being the woman Tony has chosen. At this point, Pepper's heart also completely recognized a woman in front of her who shared a man with her. She could indeed help Tony a lot in the company, and Pepper never doubted this. But if there was a sister who could help Tony in the battle and protect his safety, Pepper would still be happy to see it. It seems that I have too many prejudices against her. At worst, I will be the big boss and she will be the small boss. Pepper whispered softly. Jarvis, sir, you should be careful. Jarvis really can't help you with this kind of thing. On the other side, Max finally took the lead and threw Tony into the artificial river. But just when he jumped into the river and was about to give Tony some electrotherapy. Fuck. 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 Tony didn't short-circuit, but Max did. The strong current spread from Max's body and almost electrocuted Max to death on the spot. Max was too impatient after all. He had just mutated not long ago and didn't know much about his own physical condition. He directly confronted the Stark couple. This led to the embarrassing scene today. After all, who would have thought that a superpower who mutated because of the mutated electric eel would be afraid of water? Didn't you see this body of crystal-like scales? The electric eel has scales and the ability to discharge electricity, but it is afraid of water. Who would have thought that it would be afraid of water? Oh, you meet? The screams resounded throughout the square, and the fish in the artificial lake were frightened to hide away, for fear of being infected by this water-fearing fellow in front of them. Max ultimately failed to realize his plan to short-circuit Iron Man. After forcibly suppressing the pain from his body, Max immediately turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared into the sky. He had to find a place to heal his wounds and think about his next plan. Tony, who had escaped from Mark 10, was also fished out of the river by Hela as soon as possible. The crisis was resolved, and the couple hugged and laughed, which made Pepper on the roof grit her teeth. A day passed quickly, but Tony did not feel complacent because of his successful driving away. Tony Stark is a person with a strong sense of crisis, otherwise it would be impossible to secretly create Ultron without telling Steve Rogers and others in the original plot. In Tony's words, this is why we can only be Avengers, not Guardians or Preventers. This time Max almost pitted himself to death because he didn't understand his situation. What about next time? Will he be so lucky? After playing role-playing games with Hill all night as a reward, Tony came to Legendary Technology early the next morning. Professional matters should be left to professionals. This is the truth that Tony has always followed. Stark Industries focuses on machinery, energy and investment, while Legendary Technology also focuses on biomedicine and online games. Well, Tony has mentioned the online game to Marfa more than once. Although cross-border is popular now, isn't the spam from biomedicine to online games a bit too big? In response, Marfa said, if my company is so big, and the annual output is only tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of medicines, and I, the boss, have to personally prepare them, and my employees are more idle than me, don't I have face? That's right, but Tony still doesn't understand why it has to be online games. Does Marfa have a talent for developing games? Or does he think that a game that can shock the world can be created by just relying on an artificial intelligence that copies Jarvis? Tony expressed extreme disbelief. Jarvis, contact Marfa and tell him that I have something important to talk to him about. In the reception hall of Legendary Technology, Tony said to Jarvis in the smart glasses. Hello, Mr. Stark, the boss is waiting for you on the top floor. The receptionist glanced around the reception hall, and when she saw a man who covered himself tightly with a baseball cap, sunglasses and a mask, she immediately walked up to him and said, if Ivan Vanko saw this scene, He would probably feel uncomfortable for a long time. After all, when he first came to Legendary Technology, the receptionist was not so friendly to him. Okay, lead the way. Tony was a little surprised at first, but he was relieved when he thought of Legendary Technology also having an artificial intelligence. But is Marfa too cautious? He is obviously the boss. Why is he so mysterious? Can't he be as open and honest as himself? Even when he comes to the door, he has to act like a celebrity. Alice. No, I am indeed a celebrity, that's right. Thinking of this, Tony soon took a special elevator to the top floor of Legendary Technology. Little brat. You are so arrogant. I am the major shareholder of Legendary Technology, but you don't even come to greet me in person. After seeing Marfa lying in the office, eating the fruit handed by the female secretary and writing and drawing on paper, Tony's venomous tongue was ready to move. Oh, sit anywhere, major shareholder, you're welcome. Xiaoli, get Mr. Major Shareholder a bottle of Pepsi, iced. Marfa put down the pen in his hand and looked at Tony with a playful look. He was not writing and drawing casually just now, but familiarizing himself with his left hand. If he can't master the modified left hand as soon as possible, he might suffer a great loss when he needs to use it. Born in trouble and die in comfort, Marfa and Tony are exactly the same. Coke? I'm a billionaire after all, and you're giving me this for my first visit? Who? Xiaoli, right? Bring me a bottle of red wine, the most expensive one. I can't make this stingy kid poor. Tony said angrily. I'm sorry, Mr. Stark, the master doesn't have any red wine. Xiaoli bowed slightly to Tony and said apologetically. Master? Damn, kid, you like this. Tony was stunned. Although he was a complete Aquaman before, he really didn't play a role playing, except last night. Unexpectedly, Marfa was one step ahead of him. You're good. If I remember correctly, you're not even 18 yet. Tony said sarcastically. Xiaoli, take it off for him to see. Tony, Cyrillic lettered X, what's going on? This is an office. Do you have to be so open? Sir, after scanning, Xiaoli is an intelligent bionic robot. Finally, Jarvis couldn't stand it anymore and reminded him immediately. As if to confirm what Jarvis said, the female secretary named Xiaoli took off her shirt in front of Tony, revealing a miniature arc reactor on her chest. Two wide and fat buns, with a smaller arc reactor in the middle than the one Tony had used before. Tony's eyes almost fell to the ground. Asshole. What are you implying? Why put the arc reactor there, and where did you get the reactor? Tony was a little angry. After all, not long ago, he had a reactor on his chest like the bionic robot in front of him. Isn't it just an arc reactor? How difficult is it? And you gave me a few before, just take them apart and take a look, and you will know the internal structure soon? As for putting it on the chest, coincidence, coincidence, pure coincidence. Marfa said nonsense seriously. Of course, he couldn't crack Tony's micro-arc reactor technology, but Ivan could. Even the Xiaoli in front of him was made by Ivan himself. As for putting the reactor on the chest, yes, Ivan did it on purpose, just to disgust Tony. Chapter 205 Tony's Visit. Although Ivan didn't know the true relationship between Tony Stark and Legendary Technology, he had been recruited by Marfa for some time. With Ivan's means and intelligence, it is not difficult to guess that Legendary Technology and Stark Industries have a close relationship. If it were before, Ivan would have packed up and left, and there is a high probability that he would have caused some damage to Legendary Technology before leaving. However, although he has retained all his self-awareness now, under the influence of the mental imprint, Ivan puts loyalty to Marfa first. It is impossible to betray, but this does not prevent Ivan from deliberately disgusting Tony Stark, who may come at any time according to his own wishes. For example, the bionic robot Xiaoli. Ivan can even imagine that one day in the future, when Tony sees Xiaoli, his face will be twisted by anger. Okay, Jarvis, write down Marfa's appearance for me, and we'll make an identical maid when we get back. Tony came here for an important matter. In front of Pepper and Hill's safety, Tony said he could tolerate these insignificant things. What? Me? Maid? Are you floating? Have you forgotten the feeling of diarrhea? Do you want me to help you recall it? Faced with Tony's provocation, could Marfa suffer? Of course not. Okay, Jarvis, I told you before you came, don't give me those bad ideas. Marfa and I are friends, it's just a joke between friends, can you take it seriously? Don't be so fussy all day, You have to change your temper. Tony said seriously. Jarvis, I didn't say anything. I won't take the blame for this. Come on, what do you want to see me about? I don't believe you would leave the two beautiful ladies at home and come over for no reason. Marfa lay on the sofa, crossed her legs, and said in confusion. Beautiful ladies. Haha. That's a sure field. Whenever Tony thought of the two at home, his heart was full of pain. I thought that after what happened yesterday, the relationship between the two women would ease a little. For this reason, Tony even specially organized a family dinner to thank Hill for his bravery in saving her husband. Unexpectedly, when playing role-playing games with Hill at night, he couldn't control himself for a while and made too much noise, making Pepper think that Max was back again. Because she was worried about Tony's safety, Pepper actually took a pistol and kicked the door directly. Good guy. After 3 months, Tony's first favor was not her, and he was having so much fun. It's better not to mention what happened afterwards. Just looking at the palm prints on Tony's face, you can guess a little. Jarvis, show Marfa the video from yesterday. Tony shook his head, forcing down the unpleasant memories, and then said to Jarvis. Okay, sir. As soon as the words fell, some of the images of Max fighting Tony in front of the Stark Industrial Building were immediately projected in front of Marfa's eyes. Because of the power outage, the video data was incomplete, but it was enough for Marfa to see the person in front of him clearly. Electro. Marfa blurted out subconsciously. Electro? Do you know him? Tony asked immediately after hearing this. No. I don't know him, but I just think this name is very appropriate. Of course Marfa didn't know the person in the picture. After all, there is a difference between the second dimension and the third dimension, but this did not prevent him from thinking of the Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Max Dillon. Electro? I think Pikachu is better, a mouse that can discharge electricity and steal things. Tony said with a frown. I collected some blood samples he left at the scene. See if you can find out anything. It would be best if you can figure out his weaknesses. Secondly, I want you to take me to Kamartaj. Tony said seriously, and it was obvious that he had made a great determination. It's not necessary. He's just an electric man. It's not difficult for you to make an insulating armor with your ability. Besides, this kind of thing can be handed over to S.H.I.E.L.D., or if you are willing to pay, I can help you solve this problem. Marfa was naturally very happy to see Tony's initiative to go to Kamartaj, but Marfa still wanted to test Tony's determination. After all, special missions have a degree of completion. The higher the degree of completion, the better the reward. In other words, if Tony's determination to study is not firm enough, the system reward Marfa will receive will be greatly reduced. Regarding the mission reward, Marfa decided to ask clearly. This time it's Electro, what about next time? And the next time after that? I've thought about it carefully. For now, although it's not that Mark X cannot be iterated and updated, it is difficult to make significant improvements due to the limitations of materials and technology. In layman's terms, just like the online game you developed, it will be fast to upgrade from level 0 to level 20, but what if it's from level 69 to level 71? The higher you go, the more difficult it is, so I decided to practice dual cultivation and create a whole new profession. Through the complementarity between different professional abilities, I can improve my overall strength by increasing the breadth of my strength. I've seen the magic of Kamartaj, it's really magical, and I'm looking forward to the birth of the magical Iron Man after the combination of metaphysics and science. Tony Stark said. Well, if you don't mind, I'll say a few more words. Although Kamartaj is a magical holy land, in fact, they are more like monks or Taoists who practice asceticism. What they emphasize is a pure heart and few desires, and they concentrate on practicing. Are you sure you can bear to leave your two beautiful wives? And if you become a monk, what will happen to the company? What about the children? What if the electric man comes again, what will you do? Marfa tried again. Company? Isn't there Pepper? Children? I believe Hill should be able to handle it. Don't underestimate her. Her skills, cough, let's not talk about this. As for the electric man, isn't there you? What's more, I'm not really going to be a monk. It's not too much to ask for leave or return to secular life. Tony is now eager to escape from the Sheriff Field as soon as possible, and Kamartaj is just the right place to hide. Without Tony's existence, if Hill and Pepper live alone for a while, maybe the relationship between the two will ease a little. Tony's biggest dream now is not to run Stark Industries well. To be able to live in harmony with Pepper and Hill and support each other is the first priority. As for the ideal inherited from Dr. Ethan to make the world free of war and people no longer suffer from war, let's put it second for now. As long as he goes to Kamartaj, it is not only possible to break the deadlock of family conflicts, but also to improve his strength. Of course, Tony is very happy. Of course, if Kamartaj sells cheeseburgers, it will be even better. Well, what can I say to you? You are very clear about this account. You go to Kamartaj to practice meditation and let me protect your wife for you. Marfa rolled her eyes and said, aren't you afraid that when you come back, your wife and children will run away with others? Marfa teased. You are the godfather of the 2 children, you have to take care of this. What's more, I have full confidence in myself. How could they leave me for such an excellent man like me? Godfather? When did it happen? How come I don't know about it? P.S. Godfather is a father-son relationship that is not established by serum, protected and recognized by religion, and more formal than godfather. It usually appears between some big families or chaebols to bring them closer, similar to the marriage in our country. I said you are, so you are. What, do you look down on our Stark family? Seeing Marfa's somewhat confused look, Tony couldn't help laughing. That's not the case, but I'm still a child. Before Marfa finished speaking, Tony showed an extremely contemptuous expression. Loli, dare to do it but not take responsibility? Kissing a girl on the rooftop of legendary technology in the middle of the night. Her name is Gwen Stacy, right? If I remember correctly, she stayed at your house for several days. Don't tell me you're still a fledgling. Tony cursed immediately. Tony Stark asked himself, he is indeed a famous playboy, a well-deserved Aquaman. But Tony dared to admit it if he could do it, unlike Marfa, who is obviously an old driver, but still pretends to be a newbie. How could I be so cheap? I really didn't. Gwen is Wanda's best friend, they slept together. The rooftop is. Marfa wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Tony. Okay, I'm not interested in your romantic past. If you are interested, I can introduce you to those cover girls I haven't slept with yet. Of course, you have to know the difference between the red flag and the colorful flag. Tony said with the tone of an experienced person. I really didn't. Okay, don't pretend to be a big shot in front of me. The blood sample of Electro is a gift from your godsons. It's decided. Tell me, when are we going to Kamartaj? Chapter 206 A Dream. Nepal is located in South Asia. It is an authentic agricultural country. It is backed by the Himalayas and is affected by the Indian Ocean monsoon, showing a distinct monsoon climate. The country is mostly hilly, which makes its transportation very inconvenient. Even today in 2009, ox carts are everywhere. Kathmandu, as the capital of Nepal, does not look like a capital at all in Tony Stark's opinion, and is even inferior to the 4th-tier cities in the United States. The square was crowded with people, shoulder to shoulder, and many people gathered here to perform pilgrimage ceremonies. Of course, the object of their pilgrimage was not the supreme sorcerer Ancient One, but some gods of Hinduism and Buddhism. In the crowd, Marfa took Tony through with difficulty. Aren't we going to Kamartaj? What are you bringing me here for? Tony Stark, because of his family background, has lived in the aristocratic circle since he was a child. Even when he participated in poverty alleviation activities, he had a lot of bodyguards to clear the way. Where have you seen such a scene? Just a short while ago, Tony's valuables such as watches and pens were all touch clean. Of course, the reason why this happened was largely because Tony was dressed too coquettishly. With his clothes, 10 people could tell that he was a rich man. In addition, Nepal has economic problems, with too many unemployed and poor people, which has led to the fact that Nepal's public security is not very good. Hey! Who is catching my python? I can't give it to you. Fuck, don't pull my belt, my pants are about to fall off. Taking advantage of the chaotic crowd, Tony was touched from head to toe. He looked so miserable. Finally, after going through all kinds of difficulties, the two came to an alley with fewer people. Marfa. You'd better give me an explanation. As he said that, Tony covered his python with his hand. Obviously, it was pulled for a long time by someone as if it were a valuable thing, and it hurt. Well, although I have been to Kamartaj, if I tell you that I don't know the exact location of Kamartaj, would you believe it? Marfa said, trying to suppress a smile. Tony. Cyrillic lettered X, why didn't you say it earlier, you bastard? Tony was really angry. Anyone who was inexplicably brought to such a ghost place and was grabbed and hurt would be annoyed. But I am sure that Kamartaj must be in Kathmandu. Marfa spread his hands helplessly and said, "The last time I went to Kamartaj, I was pulled directly through the portal by Ancient One. Marfa has never entered Kamartaj from the main entrance, so how could he know where Kamartaj is? However, judging from the experience of Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange in the original plot, the entrance to Kamartaj is indeed in Kathmandu. P.S. In the comics, Ancient One is a man, and Kamartaj is on Mount Everest. This book is based on the movie, Strange, with Ancient One's ability. It is impossible that she didn't know that we were coming to Kamartaj. She knew that we couldn't find Kamartaj, but why didn't she show up? At least she could send someone to lead the way." Marfa frowned and thought. Little did she know that in the mirror space where Marfa was at this time, Ancient One was looking at the two people in front of him with a smile. Mirror space, as a high-level magic of Kamartaj, only a few people can fully master it. People like Cassilis, Ancient One, Mordo, are all extremely talented. Mirror space is a special dimension attached to the main space. When you are in the mirror space, you can more easily control all the matter in the space, such as folding matter and reversing gravity, which are just a matter of moving your hands and feet. The most important thing is that no matter what you do in the mirror space, it will not affect the real space, and you can even observe things in the real space through the mirror space. It can be said that it is a super practical magic that integrates multiple capabilities such as reconnaissance, lurking, and battlefield transfer. After all, I am a little impatient. My talent may not be worse than his, but my character is still a little lacking. Ancient One murmured softly. Then how can we meet the entry standard? Just when Ancient One was a little entangled in whether to accept Tony now, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. "Oh? It's Mr. Maximoff. I didn't expect you to find this place," Ancient One said with some surprise. Master Ancient One is overpraising, but he just relied on magic props to take shortcuts. The teleportation ring can tear space apart, and any place on the entire Earth can appear in Marfa's mind in the form of a virtual map. As long as the space nodes are communicated, the teleportation ring can easily create a space channel. The mirror space is a special dimension that exists in the real space. Although Marfa cannot be teleported directly to the mirror space, if he observes Marfa closely in the mirror space like Ancient One, the teleportation ring can also sense the special space fluctuations. "Thank you for bringing Mr. Stark here, but he is different now. I can feel that his adventurous spirit and curiosity are far less than before. Can you tell me what happened to him recently?" Ancient One still said with a smile on his face. "It's probably because of family responsibilities. He is now the father of 2 children. Compared with the carefree past, he is now more mature and stable." Marfa's voice was transmitted to the mirror space where Ancient One was through the teleportation ring again. "So that's it, you are a special existence, and all the people or things related to you are far away from the future I have seen. I think this is also your masterpiece, Mr. Maximoff." "Marfa, I can't take the blame for this. Tony is a playboy himself. Not only did he sleep with Hill, but he also got Hill and Pepper pregnant. What does it have to do with me, Ma?" The above is Marfa's first reaction. Just thinking about it, Marfa understood the meaning of what Ancient One said. In the original plot, the person arranged by S.H.I.E.L.D. to be with Tony should be the Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Because of himself and Toby, this time Natasha was sent to teach himself and Toby, and recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. So Nick Fury sent Maria Hill to Tony instead. And the reason why Maria Hill and Pepper Potts got pregnant was because Tony took the legendary technology potion as endurance medicine, so it made it hit the soul. In the final analysis, all this is indeed Marfa's potion. Well, although I didn't mean to do it, I am more or less responsible for this matter. Just tell me, how can Tony worship Kamartaj? For the mission reward, Marfa finally bowed to the Ancient One. "Have you heard of the Yellow Millet Dream? Maximoff thinks that if Mr. Stark is allowed to live again, what should he do?" The Ancient One said lightly. "The Yellow Millet Dream? Live again?" Marfa whispered softly, but then her eyes widened suddenly. "Could it be?" "That's right, so please don't interfere, Mr. Maximoff. Now that the matter is over, how about I help you solve the cause and effect of Agatha?" "Agatha? Could it be?" In an instant, Marfa figured everything out. No wonder Agatha ran away confidently after being seriously injured. I'm afraid she should have kept a backup plan at that time. And it was precisely because of the Ancient One's move that she succeeded in killing Agatha. Well, it seems that she really owes the Ancient One a big cause and effect. Okay, I promise you that I will never make a move. Marfa has already guessed some of what the Ancient One will do next. To put it bluntly, it's nothing more than spoiling Tony. In the plot of Avengers 4, when the Avengers went back to the past through the quantum channel, Bruce Banner met with the Ancient One. From the conversation between Banner and the Ancient One at that time, it can be seen that the Ancient One did not know the whole story after her death. Otherwise, it would not be said that it was not until Banner mentioned Stephen Strange that the Ancient One agreed to lend the Time Stone to Banner. In other words, the so-called Huanglian dream of the Ancient One was mostly to create an illusion, letting Tony go through all the plots about Tony Stark before Avengers 3 in advance, and through the possible crises in the future, so that Tony could realize the dangers of the world and rekindle his desire to protect the world, instead of just being satisfied with being content with a corner and a harmonious and happy family. What the Ancient One said was right. Tony now wants to protect Pepper, Hill and 2 unborn children. This mentality is somewhat similar to the state of Tony's family of 3 in seclusion in Avengers 4. Once a major crisis occurs, considering family problems, Tony may not stand up as in the original plot. If that were the case, even if the Ancient One taught Tony magic, Tony would not be able to fight Dormammu to protect the multiverse. In this way, the Ancient One would have done useless work. This is not on the interests of the Ancient One, let alone the interests of Kamartaj. But if Tony sees his original life trajectory, Tony will most likely regard protecting the entire Earth and even the multiverse as his mission, just like Tony in the original plot of Avengers 2. At that time, Ancient One can naturally throw the burden of the Sorcerer Supreme to Tony. Damn it. Is it okay to spoil the plot for Tony? If Tony knew the plot of Captain America 3, how would he deal with the Winter Soldier, Bucky? If Tony knew the plot of Avengers 2, would he still create Vision and Ultron? If Tony knew the plot of Captain America 3, what would be the fate of Aldrich Killian of avant-garde technology? It's crazy. In order to retire early, Ancient One is going to do whatever it takes. Hey? No, wouldn't it be a big change in the plot? Isn't this what I want? Thinking of this, Marfa's eyes flashed instantly, and her eyes were full of brilliance. Chapter 207 Tony in the Parallel World. After leaving Tony in Kathmandu, Marfa returned to New York by herself. Since she had promised Ancient One that she would no longer interfere with Tony's apprenticeship, the rest would be up to fate. If Tony could pass Ancient One's test, Tony could learn magic as he wished, Ancient One could retire early as he wished, and Marfa could get the system reward as she wished, and everyone would be happy. If it failed, Marfa would be powerless. You can't put a knife on Ancient One's neck and force her to accept an apprentice. I just don't know how Tony will react when he knows the truth about the death of Howard and his wife. Bucky is just a tool man, and the reason why he killed Howard and his wife was completely out of his control. But can this completely remove him and completely whitewash him? Obviously not, even if he didn't do it voluntarily. The fact is that Bucky killed Howard and his wife with his own hands, and this is something that cannot be changed. Don't advise others to be good without experiencing their suffering. No matter how Tony dealt with Bucky afterwards, Marfa didn't think he was wrong. Alice. Wait. Bucky took action because he was brainwashed by Dr. Zola. Although Dr. Zola's body was dead, his soul and consciousness were tamed by himself and became the artificial intelligence of legendary technology. In this way, wouldn't he have to take the blame? The most important thing is that he is now a real Hydra. Even in the Hydra branch of Alexander Pierce, it is not an exaggeration to call him the second in command. Oops, if Tony finds out, won't he have to fight with me? Thinking about this clearly, Marfa suddenly felt a palpitation. Indeed, Tony is not Marfa's opponent at all, but legendary technology is still largely inseparable from Stark Industries. From the stability of the capital chain to the diversion of high-end customers, Stark Industries has played a very important role in the entire system of legendary technology. For Marfa, legendary technology is not only a place to hide dirt, cough cough, not only a place to settle talents, but also an important logistical pillar for him. For example, the giant cell nucleus, the super soldier serum without side effects, the bionic robot and the analysis of the electro-optical human cell. If there is a chance in the future, Marfa will also study the desperate virus. And all of this is inseparable from the legendary technology. Zora. At your command, my master. Contact Pierce in your name and ask him to destroy all the intelligence information about me and the Hydra organization. You can make up your own reasons, but remember to make them watertight. By the way, make another clone program of you and let Xiali send it back to the Caspian camp. Again, be careful not to leave any clues. Also, change your name. Zora is too sensitive. Marfa said after thinking for a while. Please give me a name, Master. Zora is absolutely obedient to the orders issued by Marfa. Therefore, no matter what Marfa said, even if he was asked to start the self-destruction program now, Zora would not hesitate. How about Adam? According to the Bible story, this is the first human in the world. And you are the first network consciousness in history. Marfa originally planned to give a name like Hongmeng. After all, Marfa in his previous life was an authentic Chinese. Just a second thought, if there is Huawei in this world, and I snatched the system name in advance, wouldn't Huawei be embarrassed? Adam, thank you for the name, Master. Dr. Zora was very sensible and was not dissatisfied with the name that Marfa gave casually. On the other side, Kathmandu. After several twists and turns, Tony finally found a bank. It was too difficult, it was really too difficult. He was a foreigner who couldn't speak Nepali, and his only belongings were a set of clothes and a pair of smart glasses. The most important thing was that Marfa actually left him and went back to New York. If Marfa hadn't told him that this was the apprenticeship homework left by Guya for him, Tony almost thought that Marfa was going to traffic people. Fortunately, everything is over. With a bank, there is money, and with money, it is much more convenient. Tony immediately hired a dozen bodyguards through the bank to protect himself. Obviously, he was scared by the thieves who caught his python. In a small bar of only more than 30 square meters, Tony sat alone at the bar, drinking one glass of bad wine after another. That's right, it's not strong liquor, it's bad liquor. This drink, which costs $5 a glass, is definitely the worst liquor Tony has ever drunk in his life. However, in the bar, many people cast extremely envious eyes at Tony. $5. This is catching up with 1/6 of the average monthly income of Nepal. P.S. In 2009, the average monthly income of Nepal was about $30. However, this foreigner in front of him drank one glass after another, and he didn't care about money at all. Many people saw this scene and couldn't help but have some small thoughts, but after seeing the dozen or so bodyguards who surrounded Tony 3 circles inside and outside, they could only smile helplessly. Facts have proved that bad liquor not only tastes bad, but also easily makes people drunk. Look, after just a dozen glasses, Tony fell directly on the bar counter. Fuck. This foreigner is actually drunk. Damn, I always drink rice wine in small sips, but this bastard is so extravagant. This bastard is too much? He came to the bar to drink and didn't even let the bartender add water. SHH, look at your ignorant faces. I was drunk before. Ha ha ha, you are not ashamed to say that. Not only did you drink the disinfectant alcohol from the hospital with water, you even asked the nurse to become sworn brothers. The bar was noisy. Because of Tony's presence, the atmosphere was particularly lively compared to usual. At this time, Tony Stark had already started his apprenticeship trial. In a dream. Where is this? It was pitch black all around. Tony subconsciously touched his glasses, trying to turn on the night vision function of the smart glasses. But soon he found that he had no hands and feet. Where am I? Tony wanted to speak, but found that he couldn't make a sound. In such a muddled environment, after an unknown period of time, Tony finally saw the light. Then, a child's cry sounded. I became a baby? No, I just shared the 5 senses with this baby. Time passed like a white horse, and it was gone in the blink of an eye. On December 16, 1991, Butler Jarvis brought a bad news. Howard and Maria died in a car accident. The nightmare day came again, and the Tony Stark in Tony Stark could fully understand the sadness of himself at this time. Losing his parents overnight was a lifelong pain for Tony. Because of Howard's death, the 21-year-old Tony Stark took up the banner of Stark Industries and began to rebuild the Stark Empire with the help of his father's friend, Obadiah Stane. In 2008, after saying goodbye to Pepper Potts, Tony Stark went to Quetta Province, Afghanistan with James Rhodes to conduct a live ammunition demonstration of the Jericho missile. Knowing that this operation would go wrong, Tony Stark screamed frantically in Tony Stark's body, trying to stop his actions, but no matter how hard Tony tried, everything was in vain. Because Tony Stark was not aware of Tony's existence at all. Sure enough, Tony Stark fell into the hands of the Ten Rings again, and Iron Man came into being. Is this letting me relive my life again? Tony thought secretly in his heart. But soon, he was slapped in the face. Because the Tony Stark of this world did not meet Marfa Maximoff. Obadiah did not become cyborg. Marka II successfully defeated Ironmonger after a difficult battle. I understand, this is a parallel world. In mid-2009, Natasha Romanoff changed her name to Natalia and became Tony Stark's secretary. In the same year, because of palladium poisoning, Tony Stark gave up on himself and began to indulge himself. Thus, War Machine James Rhodes was born. In 2010, Tony Stark participated in the Moroccan Grand Prix. On the track, Tony Stark met an enemy Tony Stark had never seen before, Ivan Vanko. In the same year, with the help of the sand table and video materials left by Howard Stark, Tony Stark created a new element named Stark Element, which replaced a palladium element to develop a new generation of micro-arc reactors. At the same time, Ivan Vanko joined Hammer Industries and developed a large number of robots with the support of Justin Hammer, and made a big fuss at the Stark Industrial Expo. In the end, Tony Stark, Rhodes and Natasha joined forces to completely defeat him. It turns out that the arc reactor technology can be further upgraded. He is worthy of being my father. And the idea of installing a urine filtration system in the armor is very good. I want to get one later. In mid-2012, Loki led the Chita army to invade the Earth. Well done, worthy of me. In December 2012, the extremis virus. Pepper almost cheated on me. And that Maya Hansen, I remember her, she is very wet. In April 2015, the Battle of Sokovia. Why are there only Wanda and Pietro, brother and sister, and Marfa? Where is Marfa Maximoff? As expected? It is impossible to protect the Earth with the power of machinery. It seems that my decision to go to Kamar Taj this time is right. In May 2016, Sokovia Accords, the king of Wakanda, T'Chaka, died. The real cause of death of Howard and his wife was exposed. Captain America, Steve Rogers, fought with Tony Stark at the Hydra base to protect the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Fortunately, the new king of Wakanda, T'Challa, acted in time and exposed Baron Zemo's conspiracy. Damn it, Bucky, you bastard, you dared to kill my parents. And Hydra, Tony Stark, will never coexist with you. In September 2016, Peter Parker defeated the Vulture. Good boy, I didn't see you wrong. That's not right. Why does this boy's ability look so familiar? Wait, aren't these the former Skynet spiders? I didn't expect there's a third one. Chapter 208, Crossroads of Destiny. 2017. P.S. Ancient One is dead? Why is the screen black? Hey. Tony suddenly woke up from his sleep, and he had already broken into cold sweat for some unknown reason. Looking around, it was still the dilapidated bar, and the dozen or so bodyguards were still sticking to their posts as always. Sir, you finally woke up. You had a good sleep, but I've been watching all night. The bartender stretched and said angrily. If he hadn't been afraid of the bodyguards behind Tony, the bartender would have asked the bar's security to throw Tony out. Sir, you finally woke up. You had a good sleep, but I've been watching all night. A bodyguard who knew a little English immediately walked up to Tony and translated for him. He looked at the sunlight that had already shone into the bar through the window, and then looked at the time. He really slept for a whole night. Seeing the tired face and dark circles under the bartender's eyes, Tony couldn't help but feel a little sorry. Without saying a word, he took out a stack of Nepalese rupees with a denomination of 1,000 yuan from his pocket and threw it on the table. There are very few places in Nepal that support electronic payment, so Tony took out some cash when he left the bank. It is estimated that there are about 40 or 50 bills. P.S. About $400. It's not that Tony is stingy, but his pocket is so small that he can't really fit many banknotes. This is the money for the drinks, and the extra money is your tip. The bodyguard pointed to the money on the table and translated. What? The bartender looked at the money on the table, and his expression immediately turned into $. Oh, you are so polite, I am so embarrassed. As he spoke, the bartender took out a few bills as the money for the drinks, and put the rest into his pocket. It's rare to see such a big customer. Tony ignored him and walked straight out of the bar. Although it was just a dream, he had experienced 47 years in the dream. Everything was so real, as if he had lived a lifetime. Although he only witnessed the life of Tony Stark from a third-party perspective, these 47 years made Tony think a lot. No Marfa, no Toby, no Hill, no legendary technology. Although he woke up before the dream was finished for some reason, judging from those 47 years, his life was very exciting. But compared to the real him, he was full of regrets. The Avengers disbanded, and the Earth no longer had weapons to fight against foreign invasions and internal emergencies. The Ultron plan failed, and Jarvis left him forever. Hill was no longer his lover, and he could no longer play role-playing. Without Marfa, there was no one to quarrel with him. Without the potion of legendary technology, he was no longer so fierce. The years of gay love with Steve were ultimately no match for Bucky, the original wife. Until 2017, the Tony Stark in his dream had failed completely except that he had Pepper like himself. No, I'm not that Tony. I have Pepper, Hill, 2 children, and Marfa. I have everything. Tony walked in the alley in a trance, muttering, pacing like a puppet. After 47 years, Tony is now over 80 years old in terms of mental age. Looking at another self from another perspective has given Tony a new view of his life and ideals. Everything he has now is too good. Tony is reluctant to lose it all. He hopes to always have love and friendship and Jarvis like he does now. Creaky. A plain door in the alley was opened. A black man with short hair walked out of the door. Tony Stark. There is no doubt that the person who spoke was the loyal believer of the supreme sorcerer of Kamartaj, the Ancient One. Mordo. If you ask who is the strongest among the younger generation of Kamartaj, it is undoubtedly Casillas. If you ask who is the most knowledgeable among the younger generation of Kamartaj, it is naturally Fatty Wang. But if you ask who is the most pious to the Ancient One in the entire Kamartaj, it is none other than Mordo. Mordo recognizes the piety of the Ancient One. Just like Hong Rong's steamed cake. Tony, who was pulled back to reality by Mordo's words, looked at the person in front of him with a puzzled face. Do we know each other? If it were in the past, if someone inexplicably recognized him, Tony would only regard him as his fan, and if he was in a good mood, he might even give the other party a lukewarm greeting. But now, Tony's mood was very confused, and he asked subconsciously, "Aren't you looking for Kamartaj? Congratulations, you found it." In front of the Osborne Industrial Building in Queens, New York. At this time, a man in a black cloak was slowly approaching. There is no doubt that this is the Electric Man Max, who was seriously injured because of falling into the water. Although Max often hypnotizes himself and brainwashes himself, his emotional intelligence is low, but he is not stupid, otherwise he would not be able to become an electrical engineer of Osborne Industries. It is no exaggeration to say that at least 70% of the internal power grid layout of Osborne Industries is designed by Max. Since he suffered a big loss from Tony Stark before, Max has learned from his mistakes and started to study his abilities carefully. However, after several attempts, Max found that for his physical condition, random attempts not only have little effect, but also easily cause problems. So after some thinking, Max decided that he had to go back to Osborne Industries first to find some information about mutant electric eels as a reference. As long as there is information about those mutant electric eels, it will be much easier to understand the mutation of his body. Osborne Industries Group. Looking at the huge building hundreds of meters high in front of him, Max couldn't help but sigh. A few days ago, he was just an unknown little employee, but now he is already a powerful superpower. Before, the most he could get was some praise from his colleagues and leaders, but what about now? Think about the Spider Gang leader who is loved by the people of New York, Yellow Spider. Think about the Skynet twin spiders who were once unrivaled. Think about Iron Man who often appeared on battlefields around the world and saved countless civilians. As long as he wants, he can be loved, respected, and talked about like them. The fastest way is undoubtedly to take advantage of the situation. As long as he shows his strength that exceeds Iron Man and Yellow Spider in front of the world, and then do a few good things that benefit the country and the people. When the media publicizes it, there is no need to worry about not being able to reach the top in one step. The Osborne Industries in front of him is the first step for Max to reach the top. Max still knows the truth that iron must be hard to forge, and because of this, relying on years of research in electricity, Max can be so flattered and loved by his colleagues. To make your own strength stronger, then understanding your own situation is undoubtedly the top priority. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle without danger. This is the wisdom of the Chinese people. Chapter 209 Gwen is trapped. Max casually pulled a wire from the lighting at the entrance of the Osborn building, and immediately turned himself into electricity and got in. This is one of the abilities Max has discovered in the past few days. He can turn himself into lightning to dodge physical attacks, and he can also move quickly with this trick. It can be said that it is a very convenient ability for fighting and traveling. The only problem is that, like a certain one-eyed liquor, the lightning must be turned into lightning by the whole body, and the materialization must also be materialized by the whole body. In this way, there is no possibility of being immune to physical attacks while attacking. When Max first integrated his body into the power grid, he almost got lost in the complex circuit of New York. In the end, he found a socket and got out of it, and then he regained his sense of direction. With this ability, Max can go anywhere with electricity, such as the vault, the bank, the women's bathhouse, as long as he wants. Soon, Max had climbed up the wires to the 66th floor of Osborn Industries. Oh, it's really convenient. When I read online articles in the future, if any author dares to cut, I will just run to his house along the wires. Max muttered to himself. Soon, Max found the computer that stored the experimental data. Fuck, there's a password. Max did have some achievements in electricity, but that doesn't mean he is also good at computers. It's like a senior dessert chef. If he is asked to fry fish-flavored pork shreds, he may not be as good as a chef in an ordinary restaurant. Damn it. Max cursed. Osborn Industries, except for the office floor and the reception floor, each floor has an independent research project, and each floor also has an internal unified password. For employees on the same floor, Osborn's management is very lax. As long as it is not a core secret, employees can easily open any computer and browse the information. But for employees on other floors and outside the company, this password is not so easy to crack. The 15-digit password is changed every 3 days, which is enough to deter many commercial spies. What should I do now? Looking at the computer monitor in front of him, Max couldn't help but fall into deep thought, and his translucent palms were creaking as he clenched them. By the way, the archives room. Although the information in the archives room is not updated as fast as in the laboratory, the information there is all in paper backup. I think it will be of some help to me. Thinking of this, Max immediately plunged into the socket and crawled along the wire to the archives room. The archives room of Osborn Group is located on the 3rd floor underground, which is the most tightly guarded place in the entire building, because it stores the data of all completed and ongoing projects of Osborn Industries. Normally, the data in the archives room is updated once a month. After all, it is more troublesome to organize paper data. For this reason, Max subconsciously ignored this place where information was lagging behind. At the elevator entrance dedicated to the archives room, the 3 security guards were like soldiers on the battlefield, with sharp eyes and guns in their hands, and they dared not relax for a moment. This is not only because they are loyal to their duties, or the salary and benefits given by Osborn, but most importantly, the contracts of all the archives security guards are signed individually, and Osborn Industries has injected genetic drugs into their relatives. These genetic drugs can greatly improve the physical fitness of the security guards' families, and have a certain effect of prolonging life. But only these security guards know that this kind of genetic drug also has a strong side effect, that is, drug dependence. Once the drug is stopped, they will quickly die of heart failure in a short time. This makes the security guards have to attach great importance to their work and never betray Osborn Industries for the rest of their lives. At this moment, the lighting near the elevator flickered, and the 3 security guards immediately became highly alert, with their fingers on the trigger, making a posture ready to shoot at any time. After being highly alert for more than 10 minutes, after confirming that there was no problem, the 3 immediately divided into 2 groups. 2 people continued to guard the elevator, and 1 person went to patrol nearby. At the same time, the 3 people immediately notified the main control and asked them to send people to support them quickly. Just because the lighting flickered, they made such a fuss, which was enough to show how much Osborn valued the archives. Meanwhile, in the archive room, 2 professors were sorting out materials with 5 interns. After all, there were nearly 100 research projects. Even if the paper materials were updated once a month, it would be a huge workload for 7 people. Gwen, you have to study hard these days, okay? The company's top management is very optimistic about your talent, so they gave you such a valuable job opportunity. Here you can get in touch with nearly 100 leading scientific research projects, which will be of great help to you when you officially enter Osborn after graduating from university. If you do well, you may be the project leader directly. Professor A looked at Gwen, who was constantly checking the data, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face, and he immediately reminded her. Professor A was not making it up. Gwen was indeed appreciated by the top management. In addition to Gwen, the other 4 were also like this. Those who could do odd jobs here would definitely be senior leaders of various research departments of Osborn Industries in the future. It is not an exaggeration to call them management trainees or reserve cotters. Professor A and Professor B came here in this way. As the most talented one among the 5, Gwen was naturally highly appreciated by Professor A and Professor B. I understand. Thank you for your support, both seniors. Gwen nodded and continued to work. This was already her 3rd day of internship in the archives room. Such internship opportunities were rare, and even she only had 1 month. In this month, Gwen not only needed to be familiar with all the scientific research projects currently being carried out in Osborn, but also needed to select several alternative research directions based on the research data as the projects she would participate in after officially joining Osborn in the future. The reason why Osborn has its current strength and scale is that this management trainee program has played a decisive role. Of course, all people who come to the archives room must undergo strict inspection before entering here. Whether entering or leaving, they must not carry any electronic devices or take away any records. Everything depends on the brain. The more things you remember, the easier it is to climb to a high position after joining Osborn. As the lights in the archives room flickered, all the security personnel in the archives room instantly lay on the ground and could not move at all. Then, pa, pa, pa. A burst of explosion sounded, and all the monitoring equipment exploded automatically due to short circuits. The elevator also lost power at the same time. What's going on? Professor A and Professor B, as the current heads of the archives room, immediately became alert and subconsciously picked up a pair of scissors from the table and became alert. Zzzz. Zzzz. The brilliant electric sparks gathered in front of everyone like stars. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a man in a black robe. Give me all the research data on the 66th floor. Otherwise. As he spoke, a lightning spear shot out from the black-robed man's hand and pierced Professor B's chest directly. There was no blood splashing, no explosion, only a charred hole in his chest. Plop. Professor B's body fell down. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Good Guy Card. Seeing Professor B being killed at such a close distance, all the interns screamed. At first, the security guards were far away and fell to the ground in just a moment, so they didn't feel very deeply. But now, the charred penetrating wound was really displayed in front of everyone. How could they not be afraid and panic? No. Don't come over. A female intern who was about the same age as Gwen shouted, and her footsteps subconsciously moved behind Professor A. Another intern immediately put his hand in his pocket, wanting to take out his mobile phone to call the police, but unfortunately, his mobile phone had been confiscated before entering the archives room. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I can give you money, a lot of money. A male intern who was slightly older than Gwen said, but his eyes became fierce in the next second. He picked up a paper cutter beside him, walked forward, and smashed the paper cutter at Max without saying a word. If it were an ordinary person, this blow alone would definitely make his head explode and he would die on the spot. But is Max an ordinary person? At the moment when the paper cutter hit Max, Max turned into countless arcs and scattered. When Max's figure condensed again, he was already behind the man. Sizzle. Sizzle. Max's right hand flashed with lightning, which was more dazzling than the pilot light on the sea. The sound of the electric current breaking through the air was like thousands of birds singing together, sharp and piercing, making people feel desperate. Sizzle. The next second, Max's right palm pierced a man's chest as smoothly as a hot knife into butter. I just want all the experimental data on the 66th floor, give them to me. Max said in a cold tone. After all, Max is just an ordinary person who suddenly gained power. Max may have some resentment towards this discriminatory society, but he is definitely not a murderer. Max didn't want to kill people who didn't threaten him or bring him any benefits. It was like a giant beast facing an ant. Killing or not killing the ant wouldn't make the beast's mood fluctuate. Research data on the 66th floor. Gwen's thoughts raced through her mind, and she soon remembered a document she had read before. H061107 Mutant Electric Eel, an artificial synthetic organism created with the Amazon electric eel as the main gene, and some genes from electric rays, electric catfish, stargazers, Amazon electric snakes, etc. It likes to eat raw meat and has a ferocious temperament. Because of genetic modification, its dischargeability has been greatly improved, far exceeding its body's carrying capacity, and it is easy to electrocute itself after being frightened. Dischargeability exceeds its body's carrying capacity? Gwen soon extracted useful information from a large amount of information, and combined it with a murder that happened in Osborne not long ago. Suddenly, Gwen's eyes widened, as if she had thought of something. She looked up at Max. You are Max Dillon? The power engineer who was electrocuted by the H061107 electric eel. Gwen whispered uncertainly. Upon hearing this, Max's body shook violently. He was actually recognized by someone? His face was obviously ruined. If his mother was still alive, she would not recognize him. Thinking of this, Max immediately looked at the girl in front of him who recognized him. It's you. In just a moment, Max recalled the girl who admired him in the elevator. The girl who shyly stepped back when she saw him. Is it true? I am handsome, and even if I am disfigured, I will be recognized by female fans. The more Max looked at Gwen at this moment, the more he liked her. This was the first girl who recognized his identity, which had an extremely unusual meaning for Max. It's you, Mr. Dillon. Why did you become like this? Aren't you dead? Seeing that the other party admitted it, Gwen immediately asked boldly. I don't know either. Anyway, I'm alive again and I've gained great strength. What's your name, elevator girl? You're beautiful, really. Thank you for recognizing me. Max said in a very sincere tone, and his appearance was completely different from the image of killing people with a wave of his hand. Gwen Stacy. Thank you for the compliment, I think so too. Can you tell me why you are looking for the experimental data on the 66th floor? After all, she is the daughter of the police chief. Under the influence of her, Gwen has a strong ability of insight and analysis since she was a child. Otherwise, it would be impossible to discover Marfa's identity because of some clues. I had a little problem when I was fighting with someone before. I want to learn more about my physical condition. Max's emotional intelligence is not high, otherwise he would not have been fooled by his former colleagues. Therefore, after Gwen, the number one female fan, asked, Max immediately stated his purpose. Seeing the harmonious scene of the two people asking and answering in front of them, everyone was stunned. That was a murderer who killed all the security guards and 2 staff members with a wave of his hand. Gwen was able to chat with him so calmly. He even got the other party's identity directly. With his courage and bravery alone, he was worthy of Osborne's key training. Can you let me go? Max, I know you are a good person. You don't want to kill me, right? Well, Gwen gave Max a good guy card right away. Of course, I will never kill you. Max nodded and said. Hearing this, the girl who was hiding behind Professor A before had a flash of eyes, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised, revealing an evil smile. The next moment, she picked up a pen from the table, flashed behind Gwen, and put one hand directly around her neck, and the pen in the other hand was already against Gwen's aorta. Don't move, I will kill you if you move again. The girl said a little crazy. She saw that Gwen definitely knew the murderous freak in front of her, and they even had a pretty good relationship. This was easy. If she used Gwen to threaten the freak named Max Dillon, she should be able to escape from him smoothly. The girl had long disliked Gwen. Although they were both interns favored by Osborne, for various reasons, Osborne invested far more resources in Gwen than she did. Apart from anything else, the opportunity to come to the archives this time was obtained by the girl sleeping with a senior executive for a week. As for Gwen, she didn't want to come to the archives at all at first. It was the senior executive who slept with a girl who personally found Gwen and invited her to come. P.S. Gwen, I really don't want to come. Compared to working here, why don't I go to Maximov's house to flirt with men? Wouldn't it be nice to become the boss lady of legendary technology? The girl didn't think she was worse than Gwen, but why was there such a difference? Well, now Gwen's acquaintances could kill her at any time. How could she tolerate this? Chapter 211 Mirror Space. The woman put a pen against Gwen's aorta and slowly moved towards the elevator entrance. Is it okay if the elevator is out of power? Ha. Ha ha. Ho ha ho ha. Looking at the embarrassed girl in front of him, Max smiled, and his smile was so different. There was no way, with that blue face covered with scales, it was really hard to tell whether he was smiling for real or fake. You'd better go back and find the information for me honestly. As soon as the voice fell, the pen in the woman's hand suddenly flashed with an arc of electricity, and then flew out directly under the control of electromagnetic force and inserted into the information rack beside her. Plop. Seeing this, the woman knelt on the ground and didn't dare to look up at Max again. After waiting for a while, when she didn't feel anything unusual in her body, the woman slowly opened her eyes. No, am I so unpopular? What do you mean by squatting next to Gwen and watching her look through the information? The woman roared wildly in her heart. This feeling of being ignored was really bad. What are you still hesitating about? Come and find me the research data for the 66th floor. Max's voice rang in the woman's ears. Just as the woman was about to say something, a lightning spear suddenly flew 10 centimeters in front of her and pierced directly into the ground. In an instant, the woman felt cold sweat all over her body. Without saying a word, she got up and walked directly to the data rack. Like Gwen, she also sorted out the experimental data of the 66th floor. The only difference between her and Gwen was that the woman's mind was now full of finding the data as soon as possible and sending the demon in front of her away, instead of delaying time and waiting for rescue. Legendary technology. Boss, the blood sample you gave me before has been roughly cracked, but because it was a night after Mr. Stark brought the blood, some data cannot be accurately calculated. If you want to make superpower serum, it is best to get some fresh tissue. In addition, like the Hulk serum, the genetic structure of this serum is extremely unstable, which means that once injected, it is very likely to undergo unknown mutations, which is very risky. Maybe it will not be able to maintain its human form, and it is not impossible to mutate into a monster. Bruce Banner said. Since completing the phased research on the Hulk serum, Samuel Stern has asked for leave, saying that he wants to go to the ancient Oriental country to relax and relieve work pressure. Anyway, Samuel has been controlled by the light of temptation, and Marfa is not worried about his betrayal. Although he is a tool man, Marfa is not that kind of black-hearted boss, so he put it on without saying anything. In this way, the work of cultivating the giant cell nucleus and studying the electric light human serum naturally fell on Bruce Banner. Okay, you do it well, and leave the rest to me. I will get you a tissue sample as soon as possible. Marfa said after a brief thought. Master, 15 minutes ago, the underground archives of the Osborn Industrial Building suddenly lost power, and all the monitoring equipment was destroyed. Osborn security personnel and power engineers have begun emergency repairs. According to my analysis of the monitoring data around Osborn, there is a 97% chance that Max Dillon did it. Adam, Zora, reported. Oh, this is really someone sending a pillow when you are sleepy. Did Max come here on purpose to send ahead? Marfa laughed. There is also a very serious matter that needs to be reported to you. Adam said in a serious tone. Gwen Stacy is also in the underground archives of Osborn Industries. As soon as the voice fell, a strong murderous intent burst out from Marfa. It's over. In the original plot, wasn't Gwen killed by the Electric Man, Max and the second-generation Green Goblin, Harry Osborn? Is this fate? In just a moment, Marfa felt a pang of pain in his heart. The girl who took his first kiss. Spatial positioning coordinates, quick. Marfa hurriedly urged. Don't let anything happen. Soon, Zola sent the coordinates of the underground archives of Osborn Industries to Marfa. Sizzle. The teleportation ring instantly cut through the space, and Marfa immediately flashed in. Ling. Congratulations to the host for triggering the special mission. Take someone else's path and leave them with nowhere to go. Mission objective. Help Tony Stark become a disciple of the Supreme Sorcerer, Ancient One. Mission reward, skill, mirror space. This skill cannot be strengthened or upgraded. The moment Marfa appeared in the underground archives of Osborn Industries, the system prompt sounded in his ears. Good guy, it's good. Tony actually succeeded in becoming a disciple. Judging from the system reward, the completion of this special mission should be acceptable, Otherwise, given the nature of the system, it is likely that only some game time will be rewarded. But obviously, the completion rate this time is still much lower than Toby's. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 29, Defense. 8-12, Magic Defense. 6-14, Attack. 11-32, Magic. 0 and 1, Taoist. 9-40, Physical Value, Blood. 227/227, Magic Value, Blue. 244/244, Skills, Expand. Special Skills, Mirror Space, Cannot Upgrade, Dual Core Transformation, 1/10, Spider Sense, Cannot Upgrade, Big Swindle, Cannot Upgrade, Cancel Summon, Cannot Upgrade, Temptation Light, Cannot Upgrade, Equipment, Little Widow's Hint, 0/3, Expand, Special Rings, Teleport Ring, Not Equipped, Paralysis Ring, Not Equipped. Special Pets, Riot, Hulk, Samuel Stern, Adam, Ivan Vanko. The current remaining game time is 4,400 minutes. Without paying too much attention to the changes in his attribute panel, Marfa immediately cast an invisibility spell on himself. The most urgent thing is to determine Gwen's situation first. However, before Marfa could react, countless lightning balls the size of marbles swept towards him. What's going on? How did I get exposed? I've already cast the invisibility spell. Marfa wondered in his heart. Without time to think more, Marfa immediately let the riot in his body protect his body, and then controlled the telekinesis amplified by the riot to form a telekinetic barrier in front of him. Are you still not showing up? My ability is electrical. Whether it is nerve activity or muscle movement, the human body will be accompanied by slight changes in current and potential. Within a range of 20 meters, no creature can escape my detection and sensing. Max said coldly. As Max said, although he could not determine Marfa's specific location, within the sensing range, Marfa's existence was like a light bulb, and it was difficult not to be discovered. As Max finished speaking, everyone present stepped back, and their eyes followed the direction Max was staring at. Interesting, I didn't expect you to have this ability. Marfa raised his lips slightly and showed up. Because of the riot package, Marfa was not worried about his identity being exposed. But Gwen, who is very familiar with Marfa, guessed the identity of the person who came at the first time. It's really you, I knew you would come to save me. In an instant, Gwen's heart was filled with full of emotion. His thoughts turned over in his mind, and he immediately thought about how to help Marfa deal with the weirdo in front of him. H061107 Mutant Electric Eel will be stunned by itself? In other words, although the weirdo can control and even absorb electricity, his electric capacity has an upper limit. If it exceeds his ability to bear, it will hurt himself. And if you want to maximize the release of current in a short period of time, short circuit is undoubtedly the best way. Short circuit. Is his weakness water? Gwen secretly guessed in his heart. Chapter 212, Trapped Curse. After seeing Gwen was safe and sound, Marfa's heart immediately relaxed. The problem now is to take down Max while ensuring that the battle will not affect Gwen. Marfa immediately began to recall his previous life's knowledge of the Electric Man. The Electric Man, Max Dillon, an electrical engineer in Osborne, was infected by the genes of a mutant electric eel and mutated. He is optimistic but has a low self-esteem and hopes to be recognized by others. His ability is to control electric current and electromagnetic fields, and he can also turn his body into lightning, move at super high speed, and be immune to physical attacks to a certain extent. It's a bit difficult. The key is not whether you can beat him or not, but once the opponent plans to escape, just find a socket. If you can't kill him quickly, he will easily escape. Wait. As if thinking of something, Marfa smiled immediately. Trapping spell. Marfa rarely uses this skill. For the Taoist players back then, the trapping spell was still very practical. Once you encounter a large group of monsters, you can directly use the magic spell to bind them. Then use the mind revelation to slowly check whether there are any mutations in this pile of monsters. For example, Zuma guards, usually only the mutated ones will drop top quality equipment. With a combination of magic spells, mind revelation and invisibility, Taoist priests can often easily find the monsters they want in the monster pile, pull out the monster group with invisibility, and then kill them. There is no need to clean up all the monsters like a mage or a warrior. In this way, a lot of time can be saved. The Taoist priest's title as the king of treasure hunting is achieved by relying on the combination of these three skills. With the use of the Marfa skills, Max's body was immediately surrounded by countless crystal-like light spots on the ground, and then these light spots instantly connected into one piece, like a cage, enveloping Max. Once you are hit by the spell of entrapment, as long as no outsiders enter the range of the spell array, the spell will not be broken. If no one attacks the target in the spell, the target cannot escape the range of the spell. P.S. Regarding the spell of entrapment, Long Lobster did a test on a private server. The target hit by the skill was directly yellow and could not move. People outside the formation can attack the target in the formation, but after being attacked, the single target will be white and can walk out of the spell of entrapment, and the formation still exists. If the player walks into the range of the spell of entrapment, the target will also be white. This is very different from the skill effect found by Baidu. For the specific details of the spell of entrapment, please leave comments. Considering the needs of the plot, this book has been changed according to Long Lobster's own ideas. Don't blame the old players. Bang bang bang. Inside the spell of entrapment, Max kept attacking the barrier with electric balls and electric spears. However, no matter how he attacked, the barrier of the spell of entrapment did not move at all. Asshole, I'm going to kill you. Although Max had great power, he was like a rootless duckweed after all. He had never been in the circle of superpowers. After being restricted by the simple trapping spell, he immediately panicked. Boom. Powerful electric currents were continuously released from Max's body, and his entire body was like a huge sun, shining so brightly that everyone except Marfa, who was wrapped in riots, had to close their eyes. However, the trapping spell still had no intention of disintegrating. Escape. In an instant, this idea immediately filled Max's brain. So, his body immediately turned into countless arcs, trying to break through the restrictions of the trapping spell in an elemental way. But unfortunately, the trapping spell is a kind of ability similar to rules. Unless you are a being that is strong enough to break the rules, it is impossible to escape by brute force. Inside the trapping spell, Max was panicked. Outside the trapping spell, everyone smiled after surviving a disaster. Great. We're saved, Professor A said with joy. At this moment, everyone in the archives room cast grateful eyes at the humanoid creature covered with silver liquid. The funny thing is that no one dared to approach Marfa. Max's appearance is indeed disgusting, but Marfa is not much better than it now. Who knows if he will just escape from the tiger's mouth and fall into the wolf's den again. Are you okay? Marfa walked to Gwen and asked with concern. Gwen was very smart and knew that since Marfa appeared in this image, it must be to keep his identity secret. Therefore, even if she recognized Marfa, she did not rush forward, but learned to keep a certain distance from Marfa like the people around her, so as not to cause Marfa unnecessary trouble. Thank you for saving us. Gwen bowed slightly. But this scene was not the same in the eyes of others. Gwen had already enjoyed different treatment in front of Max before. Max's attitude towards Gwen was obviously much better than that of others. Now another weirdo came over and showed concern for Gwen. Especially the woman who had held Gwen hostage before. She was full of jealousy. They were both women and both interns of Osborn, so why were they treated so differently? Previously, because everyone was in danger, no one brought up the fact that she held Gwen hostage, but now the danger is over. Professor A and other interns were all eyewitnesses. It is foreseeable that when the Osborn executives and the police arrive, her fate will not be good. If she is only blacklisted by Osborn Industries, she may even be charged with attempted murder. In this way, her life will be ruined. As far as the current situation is concerned, there are only two ways to get rid of the sanctions of Osborn and the authorities. First, kill everyone present and leave no evidence. Of course, she doesn't have to do it herself. It would be even better if she could find a way to let the silver weirdo in front of her do it for her. But judging from the other party's attitude towards Gwen, this may be difficult. The second is to atone for the crime. As long as you can make great contributions, both Osborn and the authorities will consider it as appropriate, and it is not impossible not to pursue responsibility. Then the question is, how can you make up for your mistakes? In just a few breaths, she thought a lot. Everything is for herself. In the end, the woman decided to try both methods. Plan 1, seduction. As long as you can seduce the silver weirdo in front of you, it is possible to kill other people with his hands. At that time, all the blame will be put on Marfa and Max, and her attempted murder will naturally be over. That? Thank you for saving us. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we would all die here. The woman slightly opened her collar, made a slightly shy look, walked in front of Marfa and said. In her heart, she kept encouraging herself, be brave, and be confident in herself. There is no cat that doesn't steal fish, and no man who is not lustful. Judging from the attitude of the silver weirdo towards Gwen before, it is obvious that the other party is a male. Since he is a male, it will be easy to deal with. As she spoke, the woman did not forget to rub Marfa with the 2 rabbits in front of her, and Gwen, who was standing by, almost rushed up to fight. Feeling Gwen's murderous gaze, Marfa subconsciously took 2 steps back. You go first, there should be an emergency exit here. Marfa said in a deep voice. MMP, you unromantic monster, I don't mind your disgusting appearance, but you don't know how to appreciate it. The woman cursed madly in her heart. Plan 1 failed. Plan 2 made a contribution. As an intern like Gwen, she entered the archives room, although she was much inferior to Gwen in ability, but everyone who could come here was an elite. Just when she thanked him, she had already quietly kicked a pen towards the magic spell barrier. The pen went in. This scene fell clearly into the eyes of the woman. The next second, she suddenly picked up a glass of water on the table and threw it at Max. Chapter 213 Visiting the Vegetable Market. As a glass of water was poured on Max, Max was short-circuited immediately. SUO, the screams continued and echoed in the archives room. But after all, there was too little water, and Max recovered after only a moment of severe pain. You are looking for death? At this time, Max's eyes were red, and his burning eyes were filled with endless murderous intent, as if he was a substance and focused on the girl who dared to splash water on him. The next second, his whole body immediately turned into lightning and attacked the woman. Help me. The woman who was pinched by Max shouted with difficulty, her face had turned red due to lack of oxygen. Huh? I actually came out. It was not until this time that Max realized it. Feeling the warmth on his hand, it was unbelievable. Crack. A crisp bone-breaking sound rang out, and the woman's neck was directly broken by Max. Run. This was Max's first reaction. Although he didn't know why he could break through the shackles of the formation just now, Max was not stupid. He clearly realized that he was far from being Marfa's opponent. Since he couldn't beat him, the best way was to run away. Thinking of this, Max immediately aimed at the socket not far away and ran into it. Oh no, that stupid woman actually broke my spell. Marfa thought to himself that it was not good. Seeing that Max was about to run away, how could he let her go? After all, Marfa had boasted in front of Bruce Banner that he would get some of Max's body tissue for him to study. As his mind turned, the telekinesis was quickly activated and immediately turned into a barrier, blocking Max's way. Asshole. Max was horrified when he ran into the telekinesis barrier. He immediately swung out countless lightning thousands of books and covered the crowd. At the same time, he also turned into lightning, intending to escape. Crack. The sound of countless glass shattering rang out. Accompanied by this, everyone in the archive room disappeared. Marfa also immediately put up a ghost shield. Instantly, a tail made entirely of energy took shape behind Marfa. Seeing that the thousands of lightning bolts were about to hit Marfa, the tail suddenly stretched out, like a waving whip, protecting Marfa. The whip shadows in the sky intertwined with each other, swallowing and absorbing the thousands of lightning bolts that were like raindrops one by one. The tail of about 20 centimeters began to grow instantly after absorbing the lightning energy, and in the blink of an eye it was close to 1 meter. At this time, Max had also come to the socket. However, after diving into the power grid, Max found that the power grid he was in actually only covered a range of less than 500 meters. Why is this happening? Shouldn't the power grid in New York be connected everywhere? Max wondered in his heart, but how could he, who had no knowledge of the world of superpowers, know that he had entered the mirror space opened by Marfa as soon as he threw out the thousands of lightning bolts? Mirror space is a dimensional space attached to the main space. Rather than creating a dimensional space, it is better to say that it temporarily cuts off a space with mental power and magic power. The size of the cut-off space depends entirely on the strength of the caster. For example, with a strong mental power like Ancient One, whose magic power is completely borrowed from the existence of Vishanti, it is not impossible to cut off a mirror space that can cover a country, a continent or even a planet. However, Marfa is different. Marfa is not a believer of Vishanti, nor will he borrow Vishanti's magic power. The magic power consumed by building the mirror space is completely provided by himself. Therefore, a mirror space of about 500 meters in diameter is already his limit. It's just that the larger the size, the softer it is, and the smaller the size, the tighter it is. If it weren't for Marfa's first time using the mirror space, he was still unskilled and couldn't artificially control the size of the space intercepted by the mirror space. Marfa would even want to further reduce the size of the space. After all, catching a turtle in a jar is easier to catch the smaller the jar. 20 minutes later. Fuck. What the hell is this place? Why can't I get out? Max's roar resounded through the sky, but at this time, Marfa found a chair from somewhere and lay quietly, eating sunflower seeds. Too noisy. Marfa said lightly. Because he didn't know the magic of Kamartaj, Marfa couldn't fold matter at will like Ancient One and Cassilis in the original plot to create a favorable battlefield for himself. Even if the magic of folding matter in the mirror space is simpler than that in the outside world, it won't work. This is the difference between 0 and 1. However, when it comes to trapping enemies or shifting battlefields to avoid accidental injuries, the role of the mirror space is undoubtedly extremely powerful. Squeak. Marfa opened a can of Pepsi and poured 2 mouthfuls into his mouth. Sunflower seeds and Pepsi, cool. Another 10 minutes passed. Max was completely crazy. At this point, he didn't realize that he had been trapped by Marfa using some kind of barrier ability. Swish. A flash of lightning passed, and Max appeared in front of Marfa again. Maxton was furious when he saw Marfa lying on the chair, drinking a handful of melon seeds and a sip of Pepsi. What do you want? Max roared. Nothing, my lab is short of some materials, I want to borrow some from you. Marfa stood up and said lightly. But looking at the way it looked like it had Max in its grasp, it didn't look like it was borrowing anything. Borrow something. Max was full of doubts, his eyebrows, cough. Max had no eyebrows. The scales above his eyes wrinkled. What do you want? Tell me. Unable to fight or escape, Max simply gave up struggling. Isn't it just borrowing something? Just something outside of his body. Max is a helpful good man. Not much, 5,000 cc of blood, if you don't mind, you can give me some scales, muscles, bones, internal organs, etc. Although Marfa had a warm smile on his face when he spoke, it was something else to Max. Listen, is this human language? The total blood volume in an adult woman is only about 4,500 cc to 5,000 cc. Men may have a little more due to their body shape, but generally no more than 6,000 cc. And what about Marfa? She asked for 5,000 cc. Is she going to use it to make duck blood vermicelli soup? There are also muscles, bones, and internal organs. What do you think this is? A vegetable market? Then there is no room for negotiation. Max gritted his teeth and said. From the moment you took someone hostage who shouldn't be held hostage, you are just a corpse in my eyes. Marfa was referring to Gwen. There is a saying that goes, what you can't get is the best, and you will know how to cherish it when you lose it. Marfa has always subconsciously regarded herself as a three-dimensional existence. Whether it is Gwen Stacy, Martha Hammer, or Liu Mengli, they are just two-dimensional characters. Marfa has an inexplicable sense of alienation towards those girls. Because of this, no matter how Wanda and Pietro tried to make arrangements or threaten him, Marfa was just playing along, and never took the girls he dated seriously. Until just now, when he learned that Gwen might repeat the same mistake and die at the hands of Electro, the worry and fear instantly filled Marfa's mind. At that moment, Marfa's mind was full of the beautiful figure who had taken his first screen kiss on the rooftop of Legend Technology. Unknowingly, Gwen had already quietly entered Marfa's heart, but Marfa himself had never noticed it. But these words sounded different to Max. Taking hostages? He did. In addition to those security guards, Max only killed 3 people, Professor B, the man who attacked him, and the woman who threw water at him. Based on Max's years of experience, the only thing that could make a, let's call it a male, so angry is that his spouse has been hurt. Excluding Professor B and the male intern, the only answer is the woman who threw water at him. Ho ha ho ha. I see. It's only natural to pay back a debt and pay for a murder. If that's the case, there's really nothing to say. It all depends on whether you have the ability. Chapter 214 Welfare Mission. Ghost Shield. Without saying anything more, Marfa immediately put on a ghost shield. As the amulet exploded in the air, a blue giant ape phantom immediately turned into stars and gathered on Marfa. In the blink of an eye, a 20-centimeter-long energy tail appeared behind Marfa again. This trick again. Max had seen Marfa's ghost shield before. At that time, relying on this trick, Marfa easily absorbed his lightning. In this case, how about trying this trick? As Max's voice fell, a lightning spear immediately appeared in his left and right hands. Swish! With two sounds of breaking through the air, the lightning spear immediately flew towards Marfa. It's not over yet. At the moment when the lightning spear was thrown, two more lightning spears appeared in Max's hands. Swish! Swish! In just a moment, there were dozens of lightning spears in front and behind, completely covering Marfa in the attack. But Marfa didn't seem to have any intention of resisting. He just stood there quietly, like a desperate person waiting to die. Finally, with Max's big hand, all the lightning spears suspended above Marfa's head immediately fell like a rain of arrows. Seeing that Marfa was about to die on the spot, at the critical moment, the tail made of energy immediately stretched out again, and then turned into a whip shadow that enveloped Marfa. Any lightning spear that touched the tail would be absorbed by the tail in the first time. Soon, Marfa's tail stretched from the previous 20 centimeters to about 2 meters, but at this time, there were still 3 lightning spears in the sky shooting towards Marfa. However, a lavender halo suddenly appeared in the direction of the 3 lightning spears. There was no expected explosion, and the 3 lightning spears directly sank into the lavender halo. The next second, puff, puff, puff. 3 lightning spears suddenly appeared behind Max and pierced through his body. Squeak, 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 blood gushed out from the wound, but Max didn't care. You actually used my ability to attack me. Are you really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Haha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Crazy laughter ravaged the entire mirror space, and then the 3 lightning spears that pierced Max's body were slowly absorbed by his body. Nourished by the electric current, the wound that was previously bloody immediately began to heal and scab. When the blood scab fell off, the wound was smooth and flat. Except for the lack of some scales, it was exactly the same as before the injury. Oh, interesting. I didn't expect that it can actually heal the body by recycling electrical energy. Not bad, but I don't know if you still have enough electricity. Do you want me to charge it for you? As soon as the voice fell, Marfa's tail swung out instantly, and a crescent-shaped blade of light immediately swept towards Max with a destructive momentum. Wherever the crescent-shaped blade of light passed, grass, trees, bricks and stones were all turned into dust in an instant. Just one look was enough to make people palpitate. Thunder flashed on the crescent-shaped blade of light, but unlike Max's lightning spear, the arc on the crescent-shaped blade was obviously compressed to the extreme, which made those arcs more violent and more destructive. Seeing this scene, Max didn't dare to resist. Even if he could absorb it afterwards and use it to recover from his injuries, the problem was, what if the crescent-shaped blade directly cut him in half? Or what if it directly blew him into ashes? Max didn't dare to gamble. It would take a lot of time to absorb this highly compressed energy, and during this period, it would be enough for Max to die several times. Fortunately, Max could turn his body into lightning and move at high speed, so he didn't worry about being hit by such a straightforward move. Humph, you're just waving a big sword in front of Guangguang. You're 20,000 years ahead of me in playing with lightning. Max controlled the electromagnetic force to suspend his body in the air, raised 2 fingers, and said with some pride. But he didn't notice that the crescent electric blade he dodged disappeared silently after being immersed in a lavender halo. Poisoning. Poisoning. Red. Poisoning. Green. As Marfa used the poisoning spell 3 times in a row, Max's body immediately turned red and then green, and the whole person immediately changed from a blue electric eel to Green Lantern? In short, the green light was particularly dazzling. Ah! It hurts. The corrosiveness of the green poison immediately began to corrode Max's body. Achoo! Puff! This time it was Marfa's turn to be surprised. In the past, except for the kingpin who could excrete toxins by farting, no matter who it was, once they were poisoned 3 times, they would have diarrhea, like a river flowing continuously, or like the Yellow River flooding, which was out of control. However, Max was gone with just a sneeze and a fart. No excrement? How did he do it? At this moment, even Marfa couldn't help but start to be curious about Max's body structure. It is well known that all carbon-based organisms cannot avoid eating and excreting. From the huge blue whale to the bacteria that cannot be seen by the naked eye, there are no exceptions. And as long as they can eat and excrete, they will inevitably. What Marfa didn't know was that Max did retain the ability of carbon-based organisms to eat and excrete at this time, but all food that entered his body would be instantly broken into molecular particles by the plasma in his stomach, so as to be absorbed to the maximum extent. The more you absorb, the less you excrete. Most importantly, there is also very strong electrical energy in its large intestine, which can quickly dry the excrement, break it up again, and excrete it directly from the body in the form of dust. It is no exaggeration to say that wherever Max passes, the inhalable particulate matter in the air will increase greatly. I can't make it up anymore. The lobster itself feels a little disgusting. Marfa naturally doesn't know about Max's body structure, but sneezing and continuous poofs are enough for Marfa. Seeing Max lose consciousness again because of sneezing, a lavender halo suddenly appeared at Max's neck. The next second, the crescent-shaped electric blade passed through Max's neck, like a hot knife cutting butter, and directly cut off Max's head. Too weak, a pure energy attacking enemy like you is not worthy of being my enemy. It must be said that since the bug-like skill of Ghost Shield, Marfa has been floating, completely floating. From the perspective of energy attack alone, unless it can release a huge amount of energy far beyond what the Ghost Shield can absorb in an instant, and hit Marfa at the moment when the Ghost Shield is overloaded. Otherwise, the Ghost Shield can absorb continuously, release when it is full, and continue to absorb when it is full, endless, infinite nesting dolls. And Max Dillon, as the King of Thunder and Lightning, can be said to be a pure mage. His body is transformed into thunder and lightning, electromagnetic force controls objects, and he can store electricity and release various forms of thunder and lightning skills. In terms of controlling thunder and lightning alone, he is not inferior to Thor. But unfortunately, Marfa is least afraid of pure mages like him. If the person fighting Marfa this time is Thor, relying on the opponent's nearly 1,000 years of combat experience and a physique that is not inferior to Hulk in a non-angry state, maybe he can really fight on equal terms with Marfa, who has not yet completed the dual-core transformation, but unfortunately Max is not Thor. He is just an ordinary person who accidentally gained superpowers. He has no knowledge of the superpower circle, no mature combat experience, and even does not know much about his own body. To use a more vivid metaphor, he is a 5-year-old child holding a rifle. When facing ordinary people, it doesn't matter how good the gun is, as long as you can shoot, it's alright. But once you meet an adult, superpower, who also holds a gun, you have no power to resist. If it wasn't Marfa who came this time, but Toby, or Andrew, or even Wanda or Pietro, Marfa believed that they could easily deal with Max. The only difference was how long the battle would last. Of course, if Max ran away directly, that would be another matter. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing the Electric Man, Max Dillon, and the reward is 7,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for successfully deflecting the MCU plot, and the host is rewarded with 600 minutes of game time. The current remaining game time is 5,000 minutes. Please keep up the good work. Congratulations to the host for triggering the welfare task, pick the flowers when they are in bloom, and don't wait until there are no flowers to pick. Task goal, say goodbye to being single. Task reward, couple rings x2. Task description, what's wrong with this second dimension? Aren't the girls in the second dimension attractive? Couple ring, durability. 7/7, required level, none, special effects. 1. The ring is worn on the middle finger of the left hand, does not occupy the equipment bar, and cannot be hidden. 2. Couples wearing this ring can pull each other to their side regardless of the spatial distance. Cooling time, 24 hours. Each use consumes 1 point of durability, and the equipment cannot be repaired. Chapter 215 Demon Armor. A month passed quickly. Nepal, Kathmandu. Kamar Taj at this time is very different from the past. With the arrival of Tony Stark, the whole Kamar Taj has undergone earth-shaking changes. Sir, the king is here again. Jarvis reported. Tell that bastard that this is not an internet cafe, let him go to the electronic reading room to play games by himself. Tony said with an unhappy face. This matter has to start from when Tony just arrived at Kamar Taj. After successfully becoming a disciple of Ancient One, Tony naturally lived in Kamar Taj temporarily. It's just different from the original plot when Stephen Strange became a disciple. This is only the end of 2009, and 4G technology has not been developed yet. Agricultural countries like Nepal don't even have a few network-based stations. It's harder than climbing to the sky to go online in Nepal. This obviously doesn't conform to Tony's usual living habits. So, the dog owner immediately activated his money ability. First, a network signal receiver was installed in Kamartaj, which directly connected to the satellite of Stark Industries, allowing Kamartaj to enter the internet age in an instant. Then, a large number of computers, servers and other equipment were purchased to facilitate his contact with the outside world at any time. Air conditioners, televisions, computers, microwave ovens. Nowadays, Kamartaj no longer looks like a temple, and it is almost becoming a cutting-edge technology product exhibition in Nepal. What annoyed Tony the most was Wang. Originally, Tony helped Wang to build a library management system for Wang to manage the library. After all, unlike others, Wang kept all the classics of Kamartaj. Tony knew that only by building a good relationship with him could his future learning path be smoother. At first, everything was fine until Wang accidentally came into contact with computer games. My goodness, this is simply opening Pandora's box. Wang changed his stereotyped image in the past and played games all day long with a computer that Tony gave him to operate the library management system. He even complained that the configuration was not enough. He ran to Tony's room every few days and secretly used his computer, just like an internet-addicted teenager. Boxing Champion, Resident Evil, Diablo 2. Looking at the full of game icons on the computer desktop, Tony Stark couldn't help but have blue veins on his forehead. But just as Tony finished speaking, his door was pushed open. A fat man in a monk's robe and a crew cut walked in with a book. "Tony, Casillas said that you have made rapid progress in your studies these 2 days. You can read this magic book first. If you don't understand, ask me." After that, Wang took the opportunity to put a magic book that was almost as thick as a modern Chinese dictionary in front of Tony. My goodness, has Wang done anything to play on the computer? How long will it take to finish such a thick book? And while he is reading, can Wang play on the computer without restraint? Resisting the anger in his heart, Tony took the magic book handed over by Wang. Magic Array Pattern Collection Tony. MMP. I just barely learned a few introductory spells, and you want me to study magic circles? You know, there are only a few people in Kamartaj who can study this thing thoroughly. Even Tony dares to bet that even Wang himself probably can't draw a few decent magic circles. To give a simple example, Tony is now like a primary school student who has just learned addition and subtraction, and the book Wang brought can be understood as advanced geometry. Jarvis, find a psychiatrist for me. I have to do a good job for Wang. Senior brother. Quit internet addiction. By the way, send the video you just took to Master Ancient One. Tony Stark said coldly. No need, I have heard it. The voice of Ancient One, as indifferent as ever, came from outside the door. Supreme Sorcerer. X2 seeing the real master coming, Tony and Wang immediately bowed to Ancient One. Tony, I asked Wang to give you this book. Ancient One nodded slightly at Tony and said. What? Tony was shocked and couldn't figure out why Ancient One did this. I have seen Casillas teaching you these days. As I expected, you are indeed the most talented one in the history of Kamartaj. But unfortunately, Casillas teaching to you seems to be a little distorted. Ancient One said in a deep voice. Distorted. Tony Stark looked puzzled. He saw his hands each draw in the air, and then he clenched his fists and pulled, and a magic whip with sparks appeared between his hands. I think I am pretty good at it. Scarlet Chain, the most common magic in Kamartaj, is also one of the basic magics that every apprentice will master. It can be long or short, offensive or defensive, whether it is used as a long whip to attack or to bind the enemy, it is the best choice. Although it is not a profound magic, it is enough to prove what Ancient One said just now, that Tony is indeed very talented when he used it so casually. However, Ancient One, who saw Tony showing off what he had learned in front of him, was somewhat dismissive of it. White magic can be simply divided into 3 categories: instant magic, array magic, and item magic. Your talents should not be used for instant magic. You are different from Casillas. You have a strong talent for scientific research and an unparalleled imagination. Your iron armor is the best embodiment of this. Let me ask you, with the Scarlet Chain in your hand, can you defeat your iron armor? Ancient One sat down nearby, opened a portal, and dragged out a coffee table from the portal. He took a sip of the tea on the coffee table and said, "Ah. This. Indeed, it has been about a month since he came to Kamartaj. Tony has only mastered the Ishida step with the ability to step into the air and the scarlet chain he used before. This is already extremely rare for a beginner who knows nothing about magic. But compared to the strength of the iron armor, it is still far behind. How about this?" Ancient One put down the teacup in his hand, stood up, and kept pointing his hands in front of him. After carving 108 array eyes in succession, those array eyes suddenly shot out countless magic threads, and in the blink of an eye, a magic battle suit that looked like the Mark series armor appeared in front of the three people. Pop! Tony was stunned, and even the magic book in his hand fell to the ground. Then his eyes became extremely hot. That's right, this magic battle suit in front of him made Tony see his own path, the path that truly belonged to him. Tony has always been thinking about how to perfectly combine magic and technology to form a combat system that truly belongs to him. For this reason, Tony has spent a lot of time studying magic theory these days, and even deduced the perfect combination of the two through Jarvis' powerful computing power. But no matter how he deduced, Tony always felt that it was a little bit lacking. If you cast magic in an iron armor, it will not only limit the casting of magic, but also affect the smoothness of the armor's movements during combat. This is Arcanite, which is perfect for engraving magic array patterns. This is Eurometal, which has a good magic conduction and amplification effect. I believe it should be of some help to you. After that, Ancient One handed Tony 2 wooden boxes containing metal blocks. Arcanite was used to make the array plate and engrave the array pattern, and Eurometal was used to make the array eye, amplifying and conducting magic power. In addition, inspired by illusion, a new generation of arc reactors were developed. At this moment, Tony Stark seemed to see a set of Susanu that was completely composed of magic power, and at the same time had all the abilities of the Mark series of battlesuits, and could release the magic engraved in the array pattern in advance. Cough cough, the ultimate battlesuit. The Mark series of armor stopped at number 11 from then on, because its name was the Demon Armor. Chapter 216, Obtaining the Cosmic Cube. 2009. Before I knew it, Marfa had been in the Marvel world for more than a year. A lot of things happened in this year. First, the Maximoff family moved from Sokovia to New York overnight because of Agatha. Then came the love-hate relationship between Toby and Flash Thompson, and then Marfa and Toby joined SHIELD together. Then came the Cyborg and Venom incidents, the Hulk incident, the Kingpin incident, and the recent Electro incident. Marfa has also grown from the little Taoist priest of level 1 to the present, and has grown into a person who has basically perfected the Taoist priest system. Today is Christmas Eve, and for Americans, this is their New Year's Eve. Snowflakes are rustling in the sky, and the eaves are covered with snow. The whole of New York is in a quiet and peaceful atmosphere. Looking at the cube emitting a faint blue light in his hand, Marfa couldn't help but feel mixed emotions. The cosmic cube, I didn't expect it turned up in my hands. Marfa said with emotion. Just a few days ago, Bruce Banner successfully cracked the gene of the Electro Man. In order to reduce the uncontrollability of the gene, Bruce Banner finally made some adjustments to it under the advice of Marfa. The body's lightning ability is indeed gone, but fortunately, it doesn't have to become a monster like Max. After handing over the research results to Alexander Pierce, the last line of defense in Pierce's heart was finally broken by Marfa. So the Cosmic Cube was naturally recovered by Pierce in the name of the Security Council to Marfa. To be honest, Marfa was really shocked when he got the Cosmic Cube. Who would have thought that Pierce's efficiency was so high that Nick Fury would not resist? What Marfa didn't know was that Pierce had actually started to put pressure on Nick Fury for more than half a year. As a senior executive of Hydra, Pierce had long been unhappy with the Cosmic Cube being in Nick Fury's hands. After all, this thing is a big killer. At the beginning, the Red Skull used the Cosmic Cube to create a lot of cross-era energy weapons and aircraft. The time for the implementation of the Insight Plan is getting closer and closer. Pierce will never allow variables like the Cosmic Cube to escape his control. It's just that Hydra does not have strong and absolutely loyal members. It's just a joke that they can't keep the Cosmic Cube after getting it back. Fortunately, Marfa did not disappoint Pierce. The strategic significance of the Electro Serum is unquestionable. This thing does not affect people's hearts like the Super Soldier Serum, nor is it exclusive like the Spider Serum, and it is not as uncontrollable as the Hulk Serum. Possessing the Electro Serum means that a powerful Electro Core can be created. Handing over this precious thing is enough to show Marfa's loyalty. Therefore, Pierce immediately issued a final notice to Nick Fury in the capacity of Minister of the Security Council, together with many Hydra members in the Security Council. No matter how strong S.H.I.E.L.D. is, it is only a subordinate organization of the Security Council. Although he was unwilling, Nick Fury finally had to give up the cosmic cube out of trust in his old leader, Alexander Pierce, and obedience to the orders of the Security Council. "Hi. Marfa, what are you looking at?" Gwen's gentle and pleasant voice came from behind. Since saving Gwen a month ago, the relationship between the two has become much closer. Now all that is missing is to break through the last layer of window paper. Looking back, I saw Gwen wearing a red coat at this time, like a Christmas elf, and against a background of white snow, it looked particularly freezing. "What are you looking at?" Sitting on the rooftop in a daze alone, Gwen handed over a cup of hot coffee and said, "Did you go back to spend Christmas Eve with your family? Come to my place at this time. Aren't you afraid that your dad will directly surround my legendary technology?" Marfa said half-jokingly. "Aren't you also a family member?" Gwen spoke in a low voice, so low that even with Marfa's hearing, she almost didn't hear it clearly. Just looking at his blushing face, Marfa couldn't help but smile. "Sit with me, I have a Christmas present for you." Marfa used telekinesis to clear the snow beside him and said, "Ah, a present." Hearing that Marfa prepared a Christmas present for her, Gwen's eyes lit up immediately. It has been so long, but Marfa has never given her a present. Without thinking too much, Gwen immediately sat next to Marfa. "Take it out and show it to me. Don't tell me it's an apple, I will be angry," Gwen said expectantly. Marfa didn't say much, and took advantage of Gwen's inattention to bite her cheek. "It really tastes like apple." "Ha ha ha. You, hateful." Gwen wrinkled her nose slightly, but she didn't look angry. Her heart was like a deer beating wildly, almost jumping out of her throat. "Give it here, my gift." Gwen spread out her left hand and said with an expression that said, "If you don't give it to me, I'll be mad." The next second, a golden ring was worn on the middle finger of her left hand. The ring was hollowed out, engraved with many incomprehensible patterns, and countless green and red unknown gems were inlaid on it. Just from the material and craftsmanship, it can be seen that it is precious. However, Gwen did not focus on the ring itself. Instead, it was her middle finger. The ring finger on the left hand represents marriage, and the middle finger closest to the ring finger represents passionate love. The meaning of Marfa wearing the ring on Gwen's middle finger is self-evident. Is it wrong? Shouldn't it be on the ring finger? Gwen teased with a sly look on her face, but her heart had already set off a storm. It works. Going to Maximov's house to cook and wash dishes every day finally pays off. "Oh. Tisk, what are you thinking about? What, you want to get rich overnight?" Marfa rubbed Gwen's head and laughed. "No, I don't like you, I want to be the boss lady of legendary technology." "That's right, that's it. What a good company, I can be a rich woman in the future," Gwen said with some duplicity. "Rich woman? Ha ha ha. Okay, then let you be a rich woman for life." After saying that, as if thinking of something, Marfa poked his head out, looked at the edge of the building not far away, and suddenly showed a weird smile. "Do you want to try something exciting?" "Ah. Exciting. But, I'm not ready yet." "Isn't it a bit too early? But if you really want it, it's not impossible." Gwen's voice became smaller and smaller, and finally she almost buried her head in the ground like an ostrich. However, before she could react, she felt her body suddenly lighten, and then the whole person was thrown directly from the top floor of legendary technology by Marfa. Ah, the feeling of free fall made Gwen feel sick. If she didn't know that Marfa would not hurt her, Gwen would have almost cursed. Seeing that she was getting closer and closer to the ground, even Gwen began to lose her composure. Just when Gwen was about to make close contact with the ground, swoosh! Gwen's figure instantly appeared on the top floor of legendary technology. Marfa, who was standing next to her, looked at her with a smirk. "Asshole. I'm going to kill you tonight." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Captain America 2009 is destined to be a day that people all over the world will remember. The cross-era online game, Legend of Mir 2, developed by Legend Technology, was officially released on this day. This is the only virtual holographic game in the world. As long as you wear a game helmet or enter the game cabin, you can enjoy up to 90% of the real-life game experience. Although a game helmet alone is priced at a high price of $2,000, and the game cabin is directly priced at a sky-high price of $20,000, it still cannot suppress the player's pursuit of this cross-era game. The emergence of Legend of Mir 2 has given many unemployed groups the opportunity to show their talents in another world, greatly reducing the social burden. With fewer unemployed vagrants, there will naturally be fewer troublemakers, which in a certain sense has promoted the harmonious and stable development of society. Because the game was officially launched, many people have focused their attention on the mysterious company Legend Technology. Up to now, in the eyes of everyone, Legend Technology is still a mysterious existence. Few people know who the boss behind it is, and how such a private enterprise can develop such a game that transcends the times. What kind of inside story does Legendary Technology have? Everyone has curiosity, but the more mysterious it is, the more attention it attracts. What's more, some people even formed a group to surround Legendary Technology, and they would not stop until they dug out the secrets of Legendary Technology. As a result, Marfa could only use helicopters to pick up and drop off employees to work. Look at this matter, those who don't know would think that Legendary Technology is so awesome. Congratulations to the host for successfully starting the main task. Task content, unknown. Task reward, unknown. Task description, don't mind one more unknown. In the villa of Maximov's family, Marfa was lying on the sofa watching a black and white sitcom at the moment, and Gwen was sitting next to her, feeding Marfa fruit with a sweet face. But Marfa was stunned after hearing the system prompt. Main task? Why is there such a thing? Special tasks and hidden tasks are fine, and welfare tasks are not a big deal, but what is the meaning of your main task? It's been more than 200 chapters, and it just appeared. Does the author have any objection? What's more, this is all unknown. What difference does it make whether you are given a task or not? While thinking, Marfa subconsciously wanted to scratch her head, but unexpectedly Gwen got too close and actually hugged Gwen's slender waist. Ah! I say, Marfa, you're almost there. What does it mean to spread dog food on the house? Finally, Wanda couldn't stand it anymore and said after rolling her eyes at Gwen. Now Wanda really regretted it a little. Why did she blind her heart and match this couple? Dear, are you jealous? Gwen smiled sweetly, picked up a banana from the table, peeled it directly, and stuffed it into Wanda's mouth. Wanda, okay, dead girl, you dare to tease me before you get married. After that, Wanda didn't care about bananas or not, picked up the pillow beside her, and immediately rushed towards Gwen. The two women wrestled together, and in an instant, goose feathers filled the sky, like flying snow. Marfa, when are you going to move out? Seeing this, Pietro immediately pushed Marfa with his elbow, and an extremely evil smile appeared on his face. Woo! Puff! Hearing this, the fruit in Marfa's mouth instantly sprayed Pietro's face. Pietro, sorry, I was scared by you. We haven't done anything yet. Move out? Do you think George will let me go? Or you can kill him for me first. Marfa replied with a twitch in the corner of her eye. Listen, this is human language. The son-in-law wants to kill his father-in-law if he doesn't agree with him. What's that expression on your face? If you don't like it, go find someone yourself. Or let your little blue change one for you. Doesn't he know illusion? Pietro. Slip, there's no way to chat today. Sokovia, Hydrabase. Dr. Golden, how is the serum analysis going? Starek stood with his hands behind his back, quietly looking at the old man in white robe in front of him. Your Excellency Baron, after research and analysis, the serum is fine. After injecting this serum, the recipient will have the power to control and absorb electrical energy, and the body's strength will increase by about 2 to 3 times. It's just... Golden hesitated. Just what? Starek frowned and said. Could it be that Pierce, that bastard, dares to play tricks on me? No. The serum is fine, but this kind of transformation is very harmful to the human telomeres. In other words, once this serum is injected, the remaining lifespan of the recipient may be less than 3 years. In addition, the most puzzling thing is that this serum, for some reason, does not have the possibility of cultivation and replication. In other words, even if this batch of injections is not wasted at all, We can only cultivate 30 superpowered people at most. Dr. Golden reported truthfully. 30? Although it's a little less, as long as they are strong enough, it's barely enough. You just said that the telomeres are damaged, so what if we freeze them when we are not in use, just like the Winter Soldier? Starrick seemed to have thought of something and asked immediately. That's no problem. If we freeze them, we just need to thaw them regularly. As long as we don't fight a protracted war, I think even if it's only 3 years, it will be enough to witness the glory of Hydra. Dr. Golden replied after a moment of hesitation. Well, that's right. In that case, you should do it as soon as possible, and the Winter Soldier can also start to thaw. According to the news from Pierce, the man has successfully awakened. Recently, more and more people have been restless. Perhaps we should also take some action. Before the Inside project is launched, we should first clean up a group of troublesome little mice to prevent them from getting in the way. Starrick said eagerly. The reason for making such a decision is mainly because Alexander Pierce has been too jumpy recently. Although the Hydra organization has a unified ideal and the same goal, the open and secret struggles between the various branches have never stopped. Of course, this kind of open and secret struggle is not really a matter of tripping each other up, but a competition. When Pierce got the body of the spider monster and gave it to Strucker, Pierce got 1 point. Then Strucker used the body of the spider monster to create the current clone Flash, and Strucker got 1 point. But before Strucker could be proud for long, Pierce ordered someone to send a box of finished serum, and also boasted in front of him how good Marfa was as a subordinate. KO. Strucker was completely defeated. Now, if these serums can be used reasonably to create an electric team, and cooperate with the Winter Soldier and Flash to eliminate those stubborn elements that may hinder the Inside plan, maybe Strucker can barely turn the game around. On the other side, in a commercial plaza somewhere in Washington, a man in a white t-shirt is running for his life at this time. Electronic billboards everywhere, towering skyscrapers, wide and clean concrete avenues, pedestrians wearing all kinds of strange clothes, and cars whizzing by. Everything is very different from the man's cognition. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? The sky is full of dark clouds, and raindrops are falling with a breeze. Pedestrians hold up umbrellas and pass by him, talking and laughing. He is the only one standing alone on the street, looking around, and the panic and fear in his heart continue to spread. Relax, warrior. Suddenly a black car stopped in front of him, blocking his way. Then the second car, the third car. Soon dozens of black cars surrounded the man. A one-eyed man wearing a black windbreaker and a black boiled egg on his head slowly walked towards him. I'm sorry, we made those sets. But I think it's better to tell you slowly. There is no doubt that the person who spoke was black boiled, ahem, Nick Fury. In front of him, the man with a panicked look on his face was the once famous superhero Captain America. Chapter 218, Cheating for Pietro. District 13, Director's Office. The door of the office was pushed open, and an old man with shabby clothes and messy hair walked in slowly. As the door was closed, the old man's body began to change. In a short while, the man's appearance had changed from the previous haggard appearance to a middle-aged man. What a lucky guy, the time is so good. I have waited for hundreds of years in this world. Fate, it's a fate. Calculating the time, there is less than a month before Haizong will come to Earth. Whether you are qualified to cooperate with me depends on your performance this time. I am really looking forward to it. After the words fell, the man frowned slightly, and then a black shadow appeared behind him. The black shadow did not speak, but just nodded slightly to the man, and then sank into the floor again. General Ross, humph, just a jumping clown. While speaking, the man pressed a button on the table, and the display cabinet loaded with 8 sets of armor immediately stretched out from the floor. If Tony Stark were here, he would certainly find that these were the Mark II to Mark IX that he had placed at home. P.S. Number 1 was taken by Obadiah, and number 10 was taken to Kamar Taj by Tony. The man tapped his finger lightly, and 8 beams of light shot out from his fingertips and sank directly into the 8 sets of armor. Master. The 8 sets of armor seemed to come alive, kneeling directly in front of the man and saying in unison, "Kill General Ross and his experimental subject, and put the blame on Nini." The man said with a slight smile on his face. "Yes, Master." After that, 8 black shadows immediately got into the armor, and then a magical scene happened. The 8 sets of armor actually disappeared into the ground silently. Cheng Long, like Marfa, came from that world. The difference is that Cheng Long traveled through time and space and came to the Marvel Universe in 1490. In 1492, he boarded Columbus's ship and discovered the American continent with him, and later became one of the first plantation owners in the American continent. In 1774, he followed Washington to participate in the War of Independence. With his strong strength, he swept the battlefield and became George Washington's right-hand man. After that, Cheng Long participated in a series of battles such as the Second War of Independence and the Civil War in different identities. Finally, he was tired and chose to retire. Until one day in 1942, Cheng Long saw a man holding a car door panel to block bullets on the street. Cheng Long just understood the meaning of coming to this world. Unlike Marfa, Cheng Long has no system. He awakens a new ability every 100 years: dog spell, immortality, horse spell, healing, pig spell, laser eyes, tiger spell, balance, chicken spell, flying control, rat spell, giving life to toys, plus the relevant knowledge of air magic that he had just crossed, and the Ninja mask, summoning Black Shadow Ninja. Today, Cheng Long has made himself an old monster. However, this is far from enough. To complete his mission, he must have a stronger power. For this reason, Cheng Long had to plan ahead and began to seek the power of the Marvel world. He had secretly colluded with John Schmidt and tried to use the Cosmic Cube. He had injected the Super Soldier Serum. Even Andrew's father and the Super Spider made by the Columbia University Institute had his shadow. But all these attempts failed without exception. The power of the horse charm is too strong. Any alien energy that invades Cheng Long's body will be expelled from the body by the horse charm as a virus. It is for this reason that Cheng Long has the idea of cultivating a collaborator. More than a year ago, when Cheng Long first learned about Django's identity, he realized that something was wrong. Cheng Long had never been to Sokovia at all, and had never saved Wanda and Pietro, so Cheng Long was very concerned about why their family came to New York. After the subsequent investigation, Cheng Long was shocked. Because he can be sure that Marfa is definitely not a native of this world, just like him. Obviously, Marfa is the man he has been waiting for hundreds of years. In Marfa, Cheng Long saw hope, the hope of completing his mission. Based on the principle of caution, Cheng Long did not contact Marfa immediately, but indirectly learned about Marfa, his fellow countryman, through his disciple Django Maximoff. Of course, the result of the understanding was not pleasing. Compared with Cheng Long himself, who had survived for hundreds of years, Marfa, the new traverser, was too weak, so weak that he was not worthy of cooperating with him at all. Therefore, Cheng Long began to cultivate Marfa secretly, waiting for the day when he was really worthy of cooperating with him. Legendary technology, underground laboratory. Pietro, are you ready? I don't know if doing this will bring unpredictable consequences. Marfa said seriously. Come on, I'm fine. In the laboratory, Samuel Stern and Bruce Banner, who had just returned from China, were constantly debugging the equipment, and beads of sweat kept dripping from their foreheads. If you regret it, it's not too late now. Regret? Impossible, I'm your brother, how can I be suppressed by you like this? Protecting you is my mission. Not long ago, the three siblings had a friendly competition on a small island in the Pacific. The original reason for the competition was that Marfa felt that she had already settled down, and the host and guest were reversed. It was her turn to arrange the funeral for her brother and sister, arrange the happiness of the lower body. Otherwise, if she was really beaten by the robot, she would lose a lot. However, I didn't expect that Pietro would form a united front with Wanda, wanting to calm down his brother who didn't know where he was floating. I won't say much about the process of the competition. Anyway, the island sank. Pietro was beaten into Pig's Head by Marfa, and Marfa was beaten into Pig's Head by Wanda. Of course, after all, they are brothers and sisters, and none of the three of them killed each other during the competition. At least Marfa didn't use the ghost shield, an ability to restrain Wanda. And Wanda didn't use the forbidden techniques learned from the Dark God book. As for Pietro, he really tried his best. It's just so ridiculous. They are born from the same parents. Whether it is Marfa or Wanda, they can beat Pietro who has a symbiote. Compared with Quicksilver next door who can make time and space relatively still, this treatment is like being raised by a stepmother. It's not too late to mend the fold after the sheep have been lost. Pietro knew his shame and then became brave. He immediately relied on Marfa and forced him to cheat for him. In the end, he couldn't beat Pietro. After thinking about it, Marfa decided to take him to legendary technology. According to Marfa's idea, Pietro has a powerful speed-type ability, which is already quite abnormal. If it is used to the extreme, it is not difficult to reverse time and space. However, what really limits Pietro's strength is himself. The problem of physical strength makes him unable to exert his due ability. So, Marfa naturally thought of the Super Soldier Serum and the Electric Serum. The former can greatly enhance the physique and turn into a warrior, but it will affect the mind. The better the good, the worse the evil. The latter is the incarnation of a wizard. If it is not weakened, it will cause unknown mutations in the body, and even fear water. Both have their own advantages and disadvantages. And Marfa's idea is to take the genes of the symbiote as the core, first collect some of the Phantom's body tissues, and forcibly inject him with a complete version of the electric human serum. The symbiote can already integrate some of the genes and abilities of the host, so the whole experimental process is quite smooth, and even the cultivated new symbiote has completely solved the defect of fear of water and fire because of the electric human serum. Then the cultivated new symbiote is injected with Super Soldier Serum. But this time the experiment was not so smooth. After the injection of the Super Soldier Serum, the second generation of symbiotes became extremely cruel and bloodthirsty, as if they were frantic. Once the parasite is parasitic, it will frantically extract its vitality. Marfa had to destroy it by force to avoid being out of control. Fortunately, Samuel has experience in this. Is there anything more violent than the Hulk? So, this time, Samuel changed his mind. He first integrated the electro gene into the Phantom's body tissue, then abandoned the original Super Soldier Serum and integrated Marfa's telomere infinite regeneration gene. Finally, he imitated Marfa's dual nuclear cell model and created a lightning cell nucleus unique to Pietro. Chapter 219 Tony is crazy? A certain army base in the United States. In the laboratory, looking at the masterpiece in front of him, General Ross showed a very satisfied smile on his face. Success, he Thaddeus E. Ross finally succeeded. Emil Bronsky, a former lead of the U.S. Navy SEALs. Now he has joined General Ross and has become his most capable general. Like Marfa, Bronsky is also a colonel. In the original plot, Bronsky was injected with Super Soldier Serum and Hulk Serum successively, and became the existence that could easily suppress the Hulk in a non-angry state abomination. But this time, General Ross made another transformation on him. Super Soldier Serum has never been a perfect enhanced gene fluid. The better the good, the worse the evil. If used casually, it may even cause unknown mutations in the body like the Red Skull John Schmidt. After Emil Bronsky was injected with Super Soldier Serum, his body also mutated, the most obvious of which was the spine on his back. After the injection of the Super Soldier Serum, Emil's bones were strengthened to varying degrees, and his spine became as strong as a giant beast. The external manifestation was that his upper body was slightly hunched, and his spine protruded from the surface of his body, which looked terrifying. However, General Ross was not satisfied with this, so he immediately injected Bronsky with Marfa's infinite telomere regeneration serum. So, multiple shadow clones. That's right, because of the combination of Super Soldier Serum and infinite telomere serum, it mutated uncontrollably. As a result, Bronsky gained an ability similar to the clone technique. To be precise, it should be the splitting technique. As long as he takes in enough energy, Bronsky can split a physical clone. These clones not only perfectly inherit Bronsky's fighting experience and enhanced physique, but also have independent consciousness and absolutely obey the main body. The most important thing is that once the clone dies, all its experiences and memories will return to Bronsky's main body. This is the power that General Ross really needs. One person makes an army, nothing more than this. What is the most feared thing in war? Without a doubt, it is sacrifice. Every soldier is a valuable resource of the country, and every soldier has a whole family behind him. To train an excellent soldier, from enlistment to various trainings to entering the battlefield to participate in the battle, the country undoubtedly needs to pay huge resources. Especially for the Air Force and Special Forces, it is no exaggeration to say that each one is a national treasure. Once the war is damaged, not only will the initial investment be lost, but a considerable amount of consolation money will also be required to compensate. For this reason, unless necessary, no matter which country will strictly control the number of troops, and even continue to reduce the army in peacetime. The appearance of Emil Bronsky completely broke this theorem. The sacrifice of the split body will only increase Bronski's combat experience, and all that needs to be paid is some high-energy food. In this way, it is no longer a dream to form a Death Squad army composed of extremely rich combat experience and strong individual strength. Nick Fury, you have calculated everything, but you didn't expect that I would create such an existence. It's just a pity for those researchers who were killed by me. I wronged you. Crocodile tears could not help but fall from the corners of General Ross's eyes. General, it's bad. There are UFOs flying towards us at high speed. A soldier under his command hurried over to report. Huh? Hearing this, General Ross frowned and immediately took his guards to run towards the control room. As the UFOs got closer and closer, radars and monitoring satellites finally saw their appearance clearly. Iron Man? No, it's Tony Stark. This bastard dared to break into our military base so openly. Shoot him down for me. General Ross naturally knew the famous Iron Man, but General Ross had no grudges against him in the past or today, and the other party's inexplicable visit made General Ross angry. At first, because Stark Industries Group would take on a large number of military orders every year, General Ross still had a good impression of Tony, an arms dealer. After all, if there were no outstanding weapons developers like Tony, how could America be so powerful? However, more than a year ago, Tony led the entire Stark Industries to switch to the energy industry. This caused the US military to lose a weapons partner all of a sudden. If it was just because of this, it would be fine. Not long ago, because of the incident between Connors and Max, even Osborne Industries has now begun to suspend operations for rectification. PIM Technology, Avant-Garde Technology, Hammer Industries, Stark Industries, Osborne Industries, all of a sudden lost too. And Avant-Garde Technology itself is more inclined to biological research. In other words, now only PIM Technology and Hammer Industries can provide weapons to the United States. As we all know, the quality of weapons produced by Hammer Industries. Alice. As long as General Ross thinks of the ex-wife missile, he has a headache. If Tony Stark is just a bad example, then it's fine. After all, he's quitting, and you can't put a knife on his neck, right? America emphasizes freedom. But this bastard, he turned around and immediately developed a powerful iron armor, and even strolled around in the sky with Pepper or Hill. He went to the Middle East every few days to use the powerful weapons that come with the iron armor to clean up the place. Then he came back and said in a Versailles way, I no longer make weapons. The Iron Man armor is just my auxiliary prosthesis. Everyone knows that my health has not been very good since I came back from Afghanistan. My goodness, you are not in good health? Then how did your 2 wives get pregnant? Nowadays, whenever General Ross thought of Tony Stark, he couldn't help but feel itchy. General, Tony Stark is the helmsman of Stark Industries. Now Stark Industries is responsible for nearly 1/10 of the energy supply in the United States. If we take action against him, it may be difficult to explain to the president. The chief of staff on the side hurriedly advised. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a Mark armor had already launched an attack on the base. Boom boom boom. The missiles washed the ground and attacked indiscriminately. In just a moment, it caused huge losses to the unprepared army base. Pa. General Ross turned around and immediately gave the chief of staff, who had just spoken, a crisp and pleasant slap. Damn it, how dare he? This is a provocation to the entire United States. Is he going to launch a terrorist attack? Fight, shoot him down. At any cost. General Ross's eyes were red, as if he was extremely angry. If Tony just drove the armor around the army base, at most he would be accused of spying on military secrets. With a background of Stark Industries, he would only have to pay some money after the incident. But now, Tony directly launched an attack on the base, which is a completely different matter. Not only the chief of staff who just spoke, but everyone in the control room was shocked. This is an army base, representing the combat power of the United States, but also the face of the United States. No one thought that Tony would actually launch an attack on the base. Because of this, no one intercepted the missile until Tony came over the base. Treason? Terrorist attack? Why? What on earth was Tony Stark crazy enough to dare to challenge a country? Who gave him such confidence? Until this point, no one dared to believe what they saw and heard. Chapter 220 The Sudden Appearance of Sun? The battle started completely, and explosions were heard over the army base. Inside the base, alarms rang loudly, and soldiers on both sides received orders to join this inexplicable counterattack. Let me go, General. Emo Bronsky asked for battle. You? You don't, forget it, let your split body join the battle. In addition, you lead a team to break through immediately, and you must save your life. Now you are shouldering the fate of the entire United States. You have a great responsibility for whether America can prosper forever. If there is a chance, remember not to act rashly. I always think this matter is not normal and has the flavor of conspiracy. General Ross is not a reckless man. On the contrary, being able to sit in this position now is enough to show that he must have quite outstanding command ability and overall view. If Tony really just came here to stroll, General Ross would definitely fight him to the end. But launching an attack on the base directly like now is obviously not in Tony's interest. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. This principle is universal no matter where. As for the split man, Bronsky, as a sharp knife of the future U.S. military power, General Ross would never allow him to die in such a conspiracy war. Even if he died, he would never let Bronsky die. This is General Ross's awareness. As a soldier, no matter what position he holds, no matter whether he covets power, no matter whether he has selfishness or ambition, the interests of the country will definitely be put first. General Ross understands that Emil Bronsky is now only a colonel, but his importance to the United States is definitely higher than that of himself as a general. Even if he is unwilling in his heart, this is the fact. General. Bronsky wanted to say something, but General Ross had already waved his hand to signal him to withdraw. Contact Colonel Maximov and ask him to put down everything at hand and come to support as soon as possible. This kid eats the country's salary, so he should do something. In addition, contact SHIELD and inform them of this matter. If possible, let them start investigating at this time. General Ross said to a group of messengers. On the other side, New York Legendary Technology. At this time, Marfa had just completed the 4th operation, and the progress of the dual-core transformation has reached 4 out of 10. 6 more operations will enable the second man mode, and he will be transformed into a one-punch man. Punching the Leviathan and kicking the destroyer armor will no longer be a dream. Boss, the limbs have completed the dual-core cell transformation, and the next is the torso, head and small boss. The giant cell nuclei required for the next body parts will be greatly reduced, and the transformation risk will be greatly increased. After all, they are all sensitive parts. If calculated according to the progress of once every 10 days, it will take another 2 months to complete the whole body transformation. Samuel said after checking the data of Marfa's current physical condition. 2 months? Calculating the time, it should barely catch up with the arrival of Her Royal Highness the Second Princess. Marfa said after a little thought. Where is Pietro? How is his progress? Marfa asked, as if he had thought of something. Young master's situation is different from yours. Symbiotes and human cells fuse very well, and you and he are serums, so there is little genetic rejection. In addition, he often fuses with phantoms, so his adaptability to lightning cell nuclei is much higher than your adaptability to giant cell nuclei. Theoretically, there won't be too many problems with a one-time full-body transformation, but according to your request, for the sake of safety, Banner and I have decided to extend this cycle to 1 month. Samuel said. That's good. After all, he is her brother, so Marfa naturally puts Pietro's life and safety first. If he dies on the experimental table, there is no way to explain to Django and Natalia. That? Boss. Samuel hesitated. Well, you're not going to ask for leave again, are you? No, there is a question that I'm afraid you have to consider. Samuel spoke in a low voice, and it was obvious that what he said next was not good news. Because of the transformation of your body and the eldest master, all the cells in your body have become dual nuclear mode, and even the gene structure itself has undergone serious changes. In other words, you and the eldest master are no longer human. In other words, there will be biological isolation between you and ordinary humans. Boom. Samuel's words sounded like a bolt from the blue to Marfa's ears. Are you kidding? Biological isolation. Doesn't that mean the Maximov family will be extinct? And both brothers will be extinct? It's all my fault. When we performed the operation on you, our focus was on conquering the Hulk factor, so. But don't worry, whether it's you or the eldest master, we have the original genes left, and artificial cultivation will definitely be no problem. At this time, Samuel had already knelt on the ground. Even though Samuel was not a Chinese and did not care about the 3 unfilial acts, and having no descendants was the greatest. He also knew the seriousness of the matter. Ah. Can it be artificially cultivated? That's no problem. A false alarm, a false alarm. Marfa is so young now, it's really too early to consider things like descendants. Since there is a way out, it's fine. After all, Marfa can ignore it, but she can't deprive Gwen of her right to be a mother, right? Moreover, if you look at it from another angle, birth quarantine is also a good thing, isn't it? At least there is no need to buy a raincoat. Later, you can selectively tell Wanda about this quietly. Wanda is a very traditional woman. If she finds out that her brothers and sisters are quarantined, won't she have to bear the incense of the Maximov family? So happy, so happy. The serfs turned over and sang, and Wanda arranged a blind date. Marfa is still thinking about how to fight back, how to arrange a son-in-law for her sister. On the other side, General Ross's phone call was directly to Marfa. Colonel Maximov, Mr. Stark attacked the base and is currently destroying the base facilities. We are fighting desperately, but I'm afraid we can't hold on for too long. General Ross wants you to come as soon as possible. On the other end of the phone, the signalman's tone was very anxious, and it was obvious that the current battle situation was not very good. In fact, if you think about it, you will know that most of Tony Stark's Mark series armors are known for their sensitivity. Except for the anti-steel armor Mark IV, the others are made of gold titanium alloy. It is almost impossible to destroy the armor with ordinary ammunition, and it is already very difficult to hit them with powerful weapons such as anti-tank missiles. The most important thing is that this battlefield is still an army base. If weapons of mass destruction are really used directly, it will inevitably cause friendly casualties. Directly deploying weapons of mass destruction in the army base will lead to a military court. No one dares to speak up until the last step. What? Tony attacked the base. Marfa thought she had heard it wrong. If Adam, Zola, hadn't proved what the other party said, Marfa would never believe it. Master, I just tried to hack into those armors, but failed. Those armors are very strange now. They don't seem to be remotely controlled, but have their own lives. I have contacted Jarvis, and Mr. Stark has already rushed over. In addition, when I just hacked into the military system, I found that General Ross used the blood you left there to create a superpower. They called it the Splinter Project. 3 minutes ago, the experimental subject, Emil Bronsky, had led a team to successfully break out and leave the army base. Zora reported. Bronsky? Splinter? My genes? Damn. I was just worried about not having a son, and now I'm happy to be a father. Chapter 221 The Power of a Punch. At the army base, the battle lasted less than 30 minutes, and the scene could only be described as tragic. The ground was full of various large pits caused by missiles, and the piles of corpses alone were quite horrifying. The most important thing was that these steel armors that were constantly washing the ground were like perpetual motion machines, and they did not seem to be running out of ammunition at all. When the built-in missiles were gone, they used energy pulse cannons, and they specifically attacked those soldiers with ammunition. After paying an extremely tragic price, General Ross's men successfully dealt with Mark II, Mark III, and Mark V. Looking at the steel armors that were still madly slaughtering his men in the air, General Ross felt his blood surge up at this time, and his fists were creaking constantly. Damn Tony Stark. Even if I die in battle, I will twist your head off today. General Ross punched the table and said fiercely. No, every wrong has its perpetrator. What does this have to do with me? As a sound rang out, a spark was seen flickering not far behind General Ross, and soon, the spark circled around and formed a portal. The next second, Tony Stark walked out of the portal with a solemn face. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, dozens of guns were pointed at Tony. It can be imagined that if Tony made a slight move, he would be shot into receive on the spot. Put it down. General Ross ordered. Your appearance here means that this matter is indeed a conspiracy, so my previous guess should be correct. General Ross said with a gloomy face. From his frowning brows, it can be seen that he is in a bad mood at the moment. Because the worst situation has happened. If it is really Tony Stark who is making trouble this time, then the matter is simple and clear, and the United States only needs to kill Stark Industries. Now, Tony Stark dared to appear in the control room openly, which was enough to show that there must be something hidden behind this matter. And the person who could place Stark Industries and the U.S. military in the palm of his hand and had the confidence to challenge the entire United States, even with his toes, could guess that the person behind it must be extraordinary. Compared with that kind of existence, General Ross would rather be an enemy of Tony. "How did you get here, and what was that thing just now?" General Ross asked. "Magic. It's BIU, 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 that kind. If I say that I have been chanting and praying recently, would you believe it?" Tony found a seat and sat down, and picked up Ross's special cigar on the table and smoked it. Not bad. Cohiba cigar, Happy smokes this. Tony took a puff and threw the cigar directly into the ashtray beside him. Obviously, this kind of cigar that costs $750 a box is really not in his eyes. "Tell me, what are you going to do? Although you are not behind the scenes this time, these armors should be yours, right?" General Ross said with a dark face. "Of course, if not, I wouldn't have to wade into this muddy water. In fact, I just found out that my warehouse was robbed." "Jarvis, hack the operating systems of those armors and let them sleep well," Tony Stark said with a smile. "Okay, sir." Jarvis' voice came from the speakers in the control room. "Well, you hacked my control room host as soon as you came. Don't I, a general of the army, have any face?" General Ross's face became even darker. "Sorry, sir, we can't hack in. All the armors are not connected to the network at this time, and even the hacking signal has no effect on them. Don't try, I've just tried it. These armors are now more like living organisms than machines, and they all have their own independent consciousness." "Tony, don't tell me that you have started to create new artificial intelligence." The space flashed with fluctuations again, and a dark crack suddenly appeared in everyone's eyes. With it came Marfa, the army colonel who was not at the base for many years. "Even you doubt me?" This time it was Tony's turn to lose face. "How can I not doubt it? Those are all your treasures." Marfa pointed to the armor that was killing people in the surveillance video and said. Seeing Marfa's arrival, General Ross finally felt relieved. Although Marfa is not a fuel-saving lamp, if you ask General Ross, in his impression, who is the strongest individual in the world, General Ross will definitely say the name Marfa Maximov without hesitation. "You have to explain to me later about Emil Bronsky, do you know? I don't want a son older than me," Marfa said in a deep voice, glancing coldly at General Ross beside him. "Haha, as a colonel in the U.S. Army, isn't it your duty to contribute to the Army? Thaddeus E. Ross, never need to explain anything to anyone." Even though he was in danger at this time, General Ross still maintained his arrogance as a superior. "Then I'll kill my own son, do you have any objection?" Hearing this, Marfa said with a cold expression. "You." Well, General Ross was indeed at fault in this matter. After all, according to the original lease agreement with S.H.I.E.L.D., using Marfa's blood to create a superpowered person needs to be notified to Marfa himself and S.H.I.E.L.D. first. "How about you talk first, then I'll leave?" Seeing that the two of them were tit for tat and didn't take him, the protagonist, seriously at all, Tony couldn't help but feel angry. Is he so shameless? "There are 5 left. I'll kill 4 and leave Mark 4 to you. Is that okay?" Marfa said to Tony on the side. "Haha. You're really good at picking and leaving the most difficult one to me. To be honest, I'm really problematic right now," Tony said helplessly. Indeed, in Tony's eyes, Mark 4, the anti-steel armor, has been unable to keep up with Tony's pace in terms of technology. But its material is a solid vibranium alloy. Ordinary attacks can't damage Mark 4 at all. And now, relying on program intrusion doesn't work. I don't care. I'm only responsible for those 4. I can control number 4 for you at most. After saying that, Marfa immediately threw a talisman towards the wall of the control room. Soulfire talisman. Boom. In an instant, a big hole was blown out of the wall, and then Marfa controlled the telekinesis and flew out. At this time, number 6 and number 7 had suffered a lot of injuries because of the limit of thousands of soldiers changing to 1. Just from the changes in their miserable appearance, it can be seen that even if Marfa did not take action, they would not be able to hold on for too long. Trapping spell. Trapping spell. With 2 consecutive trapping spells, Mark 6 and 7 were immediately trapped in a cylindrical space with a diameter of less than 5 meters by a circle of light. Mark 6 and 7 wanted to escape, but after hitting the barrier, they found that no matter how hard they tried, they could not escape the cage in front of them. Then Marfa's figure suddenly rushed forward and plunged directly into the range of the trapping spell where Mark 7 was. In an instant, the light column collapsed. Giant mode. The right arm giantization was activated. Boom. No one saw what had just happened. Only a faint light flashed by, and the next second, Mark 7 turned into countless fragments on the spot and scattered all over the ground. In front of Marfa, a gap about 5 or 6 meters deep and more than 10 meters long appeared. Looking at Marfa again, his right hand was hanging down as if it was broken, and it could be seen trembling faintly. Obviously, this was the backlash caused by Marfa not fully adapting to the giant mode. Marfa cast a healing spell on himself, and immediately felt that the perception of his right hand returned. But if he wanted to use the giant mode again, he would have to let his right arm rest for a few minutes. As expected of the Hulk with full anger value, he only opened less than 40% of the power just now, and the destructive power is simply unparalleled. This was the first time Marfa opened the giant mode, and even he himself was shocked by the scene in front of him. The power of that punch just now is probably comparable to the Hulk's punch that knocked down the Leviathan in the plot of Avengers 1. I didn't expect that this was only 40%. No wonder there is a scene in the comics where Hulk punches a planet. He is really so strong that there is no one else. On this side, Marfa was shocked by the power of his giant mode, and on the other side, Tony Stark, who witnessed everything with his own eyes, was also shocked by the destructive power that Marfa had just caused. One punch, it's really just one punch. Others may not have seen it clearly, but Tony, who was wearing smart glasses at this moment, saw everything that just happened clearly after slowing down the picture 40 times. Can that unfinished demon armor really beat this freak in front of him? At this moment, Tony couldn't help but doubt himself. Chapter 222 Ross's death. The same moves, without any fancy moves: right fist, right leg, left leg. Breaking all laws with one force is what Marfa is like now. 4 simple moves, but in giant mode, he possesses an extremely terrifying power. Long live the Colonel! Long live the Colonel! In the base, the surviving soldiers shouted. Congratulations on Marfa's heroic performance. Just looking at the 4 huge gaps that crisscrossed the base, General Ross's eyelids twitched. This is unscientific. Obviously possessing such a terrifying power, why did his genes only discover the ability of unlimited telomere regeneration? Is it true? Or the group of researchers under him are too useless? No, I won't accept it. I want a stronger research team. I must thoroughly expose you. General Ross swore in his heart. Thinking this in his heart, Marfa had returned to the control room again. Tony, I have trapped Mark IV. I leave the rest to you. Go as fast as possible and escape. I am not responsible for finding it back. Marfa pretended to be calm and found a chair and sat down directly. Sir, after the scan and analysis just now, Mr. Maximov is not in a very good condition now. His hands are shaking slightly and his steps are much weaker than before. Jarvis said to Tony quietly through the bone conduction device of the smart glasses. Is that so? It seems that the use of those moves just now was very costly. Tony easily analyzed the key to the matter through Jarvis's reminder. This kid is still pretending. But it is true. If he can kill my masterpiece so easily, where will I, Tony Stark, put my face? Tony thought to himself. Indeed, Marfa's condition was not very good at this time. But the reason was not that he paid a huge price as Tony said. It was that he had just completed the 4th experimental transformation and his body had not yet completely adapted to the power of the dual nuclear cells. It was like transplanting a boxing champion's arm to a geek. Even if the muscles and bones can fully exert their explosive power, if they are used rashly, the heart blood supply, nerve feedback and the like will still cause a series of side effects. Only after a long period of running in and adaptation can we truly master this brand new arm. Jarvis, how about we give it a try? Tony said uncertainly. Obviously, Tony couldn't hold back after seeing Marfa's great performance in front of everyone just now, and wanted to show off in front of Marfa. Sir, I'm afraid not. It's just a prototype, and the combat methods it has are too simple. Okay, then let's go to number 10. As soon as the voice fell, Tony immediately began to draw circles in the air. Circle, circle and circle. Finally, accompanied by a flash of sparks, a somewhat unstable portal appeared in everyone's sight. From this unstable portal, it can be seen that the portal Tony used when he came here before was obviously not made by himself. There is no way, as a space magic, the difficulty of learning is much greater than the Scarlet Chain and the Stonefield Step. Even Tony, nowadays, could only barely master it. As the portal opened, Countless pieces of armor flew towards Tony. Ka-ka-ka. With a clear and pleasant sound of mechanical assembly, Mark 10 was already fully equipped. Let's go. Let's go meet our old friend. Just as Tony had just ignited and was about to take off, a black shadow suddenly appeared behind General Ross. Puff. The long knife entered the abdomen and immediately pierced through General Ross's body. Then the figure in the nightgown raised the knife in his hand violently, and General Ross's upper body was split in two on the spot. Red, white, red and white. Before everyone could react, General Ross was already dead, leaving only a pool of nauseating internal organs and various liquids on the spot. Good fellow. You dare to do this in front of me. Marfa subconsciously threw a trap spell at the black shadow in night clothes. However, the opponent was obviously prepared. Before Marfa could complete the skill, he melted into the ground again, turned into a shadow, and disappeared from everyone's sight. This is impossible. How is it possible? Marfa was stunned. Although it has been a long time, Marfa is not unfamiliar with the scene in front of him. The figure just now had red eyes, dark blue skin, a samurai sword on his back, and many shurikens hanging on his waist, plus the black clothes that looked like night clothes. Isn't this the Black Shadow army summoned by the Ninja Mask, the ninja warriors? If it was just the appearance that was similar, Marfa might not be so sure, but the way the opponent appeared and disappeared just now was to escape into the shadow. There is no other possibility. Could it be him? Marfa thought of his father at the first time. It's not that Marfa doesn't trust her father, but the magic used by Django is the air magic from the same film and television work as the Black Hawk Collar. At first, Marfa just thought it was a coincidence. After all, Marvel is too complicated, and Marfa has never read Marvel comics. They are all American comics, so it's not surprising to have similar things. But if both air magic and the Black Hawk core appear in this world, it's worth thinking about. Is it the fusion of the two worlds, or is the person who taught her father magic also a time traveler? There are only two possibilities for the simultaneous appearance of Black Shadow ninjas and air magic. Either the world that Marfa came to is not a pure Marvel world, but an existence similar to the American comic world. This possibility is not high. If it is an American comic world, then according to the routine of the novel, there is no reason not to have DC characters or mutants. But after Marfa's understanding, Gotham City does not exist in this world. And from the fact that Wanda is a sister and Pietro is a brother, it can be seen that this is a movie universe, not a comic universe. Otherwise, because in the comic setting, Pietro is younger than Wanda. Things happened too fast. The dozen people in the control room, plus Tony who had walked to the gap in the wall that Marfa had just blown up, were all stunned. For a moment, there was silence all around. General Ross is dead. Finally, a chief of staff told the truth in a tone of collapse. On the other side, Emo Bronski had already escaped nearly 100 kilometers with a team. Fearing that he would attract the attention of the armor, Bronski chose a misleading tactic. 7 clones, each with a team, broke through from different directions. In fact, he succeeded. After intercepting 5 clones, Bronski and the other 2 clones successfully escaped from the base. According to General Ross's explanation, now he needs to rush to the presidential palace and continue to dedicate his life to America. However, it didn't take long for him to despair. Because dozens of men in black suddenly emerged around him, and they were all dressed the same, tall and built the same. The most important thing is that they all had red eyes. Obviously, they were not ordinary people, and they had bad intentions. Who are you? You are fighting against the state machine. Bronski frowned and pulled out a pistol and a dagger from the gun pockets on both sides of his thighs. The Black Shadow ninja obviously had no intention of chatting with Bronski. Swish, swish, swish. Countless shurikens flew towards Bronski like raindrops. Dang 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 dang. Bronski tried his best to shoot down those shurikens with a dagger in his hand, and shot several Black Shadow ninjas with his pistol. But Bronski was stunned. Because those Black Shadow ninjas who were shot did not get injured or bleed, but turned into a ball of black smoke and disappeared. Monster? Or illusion? No, it's not an illusion. The feeling of the dagger and shuriken hitting each other is real. Bronski thought so in his heart, but the team he led was not so lucky. After just one encounter, they were killed by the Black Shadow ninjas who suddenly emerged from the ground. In a duel between masters, success or failure is often decided in a split second. As soon as Bronski was distracted, a shadow ninja immediately emerged from the shadow behind him. The samurai sword flashed with cold light, and stabbed towards Bronski's heart with a fierce force. Ton. A shield with 5 stars and red and blue stripes printed on it flew out from a motorcycle in the distance, instantly turning the shadow ninja into black smoke. Hey, soldier, it looks like you're in trouble. Chapter 223, Soldier King vs. Soldier King. As a soldier king of an era, and even injected with super soldier serum, Steve felt that he had a lot in common with the man in front of him, which was why Steve Rogers came as soon as he received Nick Fury's call. You? How is it possible? Obviously, Emo Bronski showed an incredible look when the legendary figure Steve Rogers appeared in front of him. Due to his heroic behavior in the past, the name Steve Rogers has long been written into history books, especially in the US military, where the spirit of Captain America has never stopped being promoted. It is no exaggeration to say that nowadays, every American soldier has grown up listening to Steve Rogers' deeds. In their eyes, Steve Rogers is a well-deserved idol. Of course, this does not include Emo Bronski. Bronski is different from others. He has a strong sense of pride since he was a child. He never thinks that he is inferior to anyone, including the legendary Soldier King Captain America Steve Rogers. It is precisely because of this belief that in the original plot, Bronski would risk his life to challenge Hulk again and again. Everything is just to prove that he, Emo Bronski, is the one who is truly worthy of General Ross's high regard, and is the future and hope of the real US military. Huh? After the shield broke up a black shadow ninja, it spun several circles in the air, and after breaking up 4 black shadow ninjas in a row, it flew back to Steve's hand. Bronski. Hasn't anyone told you that your shield is unscientific? As a former member of the Navy SEALs and now General Ross's #1 henchman, Bronski is naturally proficient in all kinds of martial arts, and he can use swords, spears, swords and halberds in a very good way. But even so, Steve's shield show still surprised him. What does it matter? Anyway, when I learned this trick, Newton was already dead. As he spoke, the shield was thrown out again, breaking up 3 black shadow ninjas in a row and returning to Steve's hand. Bronski was not to be outdone. After a beautiful one-handed change of the magazine, he fired 6 shots in a row, each of which hit the black shadow ninja's forehead. Tell me honestly, did you find a big rock to hold down Newton's coffin? Bronski teased. Maybe. Gay love is always born inadvertently, as the saying goes. When a soldier meets another soldier, his eyes are filled with tears. Bucky, then I go? Tony, let's go together. Let's not talk about Bronski and Steve, a pair of gay men. Tony Stark on the other side was full of anger at this time. It stands to reason that Mark 10 is far superior to the previous version in terms of weapons and equipment, as well as internal structure. It can be said to be the most advanced set of armor that Tony can show off at the moment. But you can't believe it that it can't beat Mark 4. Both sets of armor can use energy pulse cannons, but the damage caused by energy pulse cannons of similar intensity on Mark 4 and Mark 10 is completely different. After all, it is one of the strongest metals in the universe. Doesn't vibranium have any face? Even the alloy mixed with vibranium is far from being comparable to the gold-titanium alloy. Just like now, after exchanging a pulse cannon, Mark IV just shook its body, and even stored the impact of the pulse cannon, and gave Mark X the 2-hit combo. And what about Mark X? After being hit by a pulse cannon, a piece of armor will collapse. As for missiles, you can guess the result by looking at the Mark IV that has endured countless artillery fire from the Army soldiers. Now, except for being a little dirty, it looks completely like a brand new one. Which bastard? No. Which genius made such a thing? How can it be so powerful? Tony complained. Although Tony had guessed that there would be such a result before the war, guessing is one thing, and experiencing it personally is another. The original design of Mark IV was purely to disgust Obadiah. After all, Obadiah can discharge electricity and switch to close combat postures. It can be said to be a weakened version of the fusion of Electro and Hulk. That's why Tony thought of using money to make up for the shortcomings of Mark IV, so that it could compete with Obadiah. But now, Tony Stark has deeply realized the power of money. Bang! Another punch with great force. Although Mark X avoided the vital parts with its more agile characteristics, it was already scarred in the previous battle, so Mark X could not play 100% of its performance at this time. No, if I continue to fight like this, I will definitely lose. How about asking for help? Even if Marfa is not in good condition now, I can still help a little. No, I am Tony Stark. How can I be defeated by my own armor? Don't I have face? Jarvis gave up the parts of Mark X's 2 arms and disintegrated immediately. Tony gritted his teeth and said, "Sir, it's too risky, and without the stabilizers on both hands, it would be difficult for Mark X to maintain stable flight in the air, let alone dodge attacks." Jarvis dissuaded. "How could I not know? But Mark 10 also has a stabilizer on its chest. If the power is adjusted to the maximum, it should be no problem to fly stably. As for dodging, isn't it enough to kill him before that?" Tony said firmly. "Kirakara." Jarvis said nothing more and immediately removed the armor on Tony's arm. In an instant, Mark 10's body shook and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, as Tony said, Mark 10 also has 2 auxiliary jet engines on its chest and back. Originally, it was to improve the combat maneuverability of Mark 10 and make it more agile, but now it is enough to maintain the stability of flight. Is it coming? In the distance, Marfa, who was half lying on the chair, saw the scene and immediately sat up straight. In fact, a long time has passed, and Marfa has already completely recovered with the help of healing and potions. The reason why I didn't come forward to participate was mainly to see what Tony had learned recently in Camartage. As expected, the next second, Tony's hands were dangling in the air, and a whip with sparks appeared in his hands. Oh my goodness, Iron Man versus Whip. No, did they get the wrong script? How come Tony became Whip? As Tony waved his hands, 2 magic whips with sparks immediately slithered towards Mark IV like 2 spirit snakes. Pa. Pa. It was a pity that the thunder was loud but the rain was small. With Tony's strength, it was obviously impossible to destroy Mark IV with a magic whip. No. Tony felt a little disappointed, although he had known this would happen. Fortunately, Tony did not pin his hopes here. The next second, the magic whip, under Tony's control, was wrapped around Mark IV like a giant python, tying him up like a big dumpling. Could it be? Marfa was stunned. He was so familiar with this scene. Did the giant ape Jin Bing die with his eyes wide open? Sure enough, the facts once again confirmed Marfa's conjecture. Tony maintained the scarlet chain with one hand and began to draw circles with the other hand. The portal was about to take shape. Jarvis, Marfa, full horsepower. Yes, sir. After the words fell, Tony drove the Mark 10 into the portal. The Mark 4 was originally designed to focus too much on structural stability. It was a power defense armor, and its speed and flexibility were much worse than the Mark 10. Now that it was tied up by the scarlet chain, there was no room for resistance. Tony was immediately dragged to the portal. Click. The portal closed. Only half of the Mark 4 wreckage was left on the ground. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 District 13. Stunned, Marfa was completely stunned by the scene in front of him. Although Marfa had used this move before, it was because he had watched Marvel movies in his previous life and knew that Black Dwarf, one of the 5 black generals, had his arm broken in this way. And what about Tony? Obviously, he couldn't know this. Even from the degree of his completion of the portal, Tony has not yet been able to fully master the portal magic. How terrible is an unstable portal? Just look at the wreckage of Mark IV lying on the ground now. If Tony is unlucky and the portal collapses when he passes through it, then it may not be Mark IV that is blocked now. More importantly, being able to develop a magic that cannot be fully mastered to such an extent is enough to prove Tony's imagination and magic talent. It can be foreseen that through this battle with Mark IV, with Tony Stark's personality, in the future, Tony will definitely focus on developing the space-cutting power of the portal. It is not impossible to even create a space-cutting magic. The white magic system of Camartage has great potential. It can do things like going back in time, seeing through the future, traveling through space, and even breaking the barriers of the dimensional universe. PSC Spider-Man, no return for details, and Tony is obviously an outlier to traditional white magicians. He dares to innovate, he does not respect dogma, and he has money. God knows what tricks Tony will play with magic in the future. District 13, Director's Office. A dark shadow slowly emerged behind Changlong. After looking at each other, Changlong immediately understood what happened. Untactful kid, I kindly helped him solve the problem, but he was fine, huh? Anyway, since General Ross and those experimental data have been destroyed, and Bronsky has accepted the recruitment of Black Sauce Egg, I don't think there will be any big problems. But after that, I'm afraid I won't be able to enjoy my life quietly. Cheng Long murmured. Indeed, as he said, Marfa was already on his way to District 13. With the existence of Django, the traitor, it is not difficult for Marfa to find the location of District 13. Not to mention Adam, Zora. District 13 is very different from SWORD and SHIELD. SWORD is mainly composed of Skrulls and Earthlings. It was founded by Abigail Brand and is currently led by Big Mom's best friend, Maria Rambo. It is mainly responsible for resolving interstellar disputes. Its profession is somewhat similar to that of the Men in Black. SHIELD, the Strategic Attack and Logistics Agency for Homeland Defense, is a subordinate organization of the United Nations Security Council. It was founded by Howard Stark, Peggy Carter and others. It is mainly responsible for handling various strange events on Earth. The current nominal director is Nick Fury. Shock. The leaders of the two organizations are both black. Who dares to say that black people have no status? Big Mom, if it weren't for me, would they have come this far? Big Mom will always be your Big Mom. Finally, there is District 13. Compared with the first two, it is much lower. District 13 is an official U.S. agency established during the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. It is only responsible to the president. It is mainly responsible for alien incidents and superpower incidents in the United States. Any superpower foreigner who attempts to cause trouble in the United States will receive special attention from District 13, and even door-to-door service. Cheng Long is currently the actual leader of District 13, and no one knows whether part of the reason why he contacted Django was due to his diligence in his work. After all, the Maximov family is not Native American, so it is natural that they received attention from District 13 when entering the country. Tennessee, located in the southeastern United States, has high terrain in the east and low terrain in the west. The Tennessee River, Cumberland River and Mississippi River run through the state. Coupled with a subtropical monsoon climate, this land is not only beautiful, but also extremely suitable for agricultural production. Memphis, as the largest city in Tennessee, is known as the center of country music. The hometown of the famous Elvis Presley is here. On the outskirts of Memphis, there is a large automobile manufacturing company located here. Of course, in the eyes of the locals, this is just a manufacturing enterprise with a relatively high security level. But if someone observes carefully, they will find that the security level of this enterprise seems to be a bit too high. There is no doubt that this is where District 13 is really located. As the saying goes, small seclusion in the forest, big seclusion in the city. Setting up the base in such a place is naturally the result of Cheng Long's careful consideration. But today, District 13 welcomed a guest, an unusual guest. Excuse me, is this Mr. Maximov? A man in workshop work clothes came forward and asked. Oh? You knew I was coming. Marfa said with a playful look. Ha ha ha, our general manager has been waiting for you inside. Please follow me in. After that, the man bowed slightly to Marfa and immediately led Marfa into the factory. That's right, this place is an ordinary factory no matter how you look at it. If Adam, Zora, was not very sure and Django confirmed it, Marfa would never have associated the factory in front of him with District 13. Hello, manager. The two of them strolled in the factory area, and people kept greeting the guide. Looking at their smiling faces, Marfa really found it difficult to associate them with members of the mysterious department. Do all your employees need to undergo actor training? They are pretending to be too much? Marfa sighed. Ahem, Mr. Maximov, please forgive me. They are all real factory employees. In fact, we are really an auto parts production plant. The guide said with some pride. It is obvious that he is very proud of being able to make District 13 so secretive. What? It's really an auto parts production plant? In other words, you are selling dog meat under the guise of sheep meat. Even the clerks themselves don't know that they actually sell dog meat. Marfa said with a very surprised expression. No wonder no one has known the specific location of District 13 for so long. Soon, the two came to a telephone booth. Mr. Maximov, please go first. The guide pointed to the telephone booth in front of him and said. High-level staff dormitory? Employee-only telephone booth? Awesome. The two walked into the telephone booth, and the leading man picked up the phone and then pressed a series of numbers on the keyboard. A wall inside the telephone booth immediately opened up, and the floor where the two stood also moved in. Before Marfa could react, the floor under his feet began to drop rapidly like an elevator. In the original telephone booth, a telephone that was exactly the same as the previous one flipped out from the other side of the wall. At first glance, it looked exactly the same as the previous one. In the blink of an eye, the two had already arrived at the 13th floor underground. When they walked out of the elevator, they saw an old man in slovenly clothes and unkempt hair standing at the door waiting. "Director, the guest is here." The leading man bowed slightly and said, "Okay, you can leave first. I want to talk to Mr. Maximov alone." The man nodded slightly to Marfa, and then took the elevator to leave the basement. Poison spell. Soulfire talisman. Summon skeleton. Interesting. What should I call you? Marfa Maximov, or Mr. Time Traveler? The old man spoke first. Really? Hearing what the old man said, Marfa no longer had any doubts in his heart. Black Hawk Collar. Rat Talisman. Air Magic. You are not bad either. What should I call you? Dad? Jackie-chan? Or Xiao? Or Toru? Mr. Time Traveler. Chapter 225 The Truth of Traveling Through Time. Ha ha ha, it seems that you also know my identity. Let me introduce you, Cheng Long, from Sichuan Province, China. I came here after watching Avengers 3. The time of my travel is 1490. Cheng Long said with a smile. Mafa? Question mark. Good guy, fellow villager. Hey. Wait, Avengers 3? 1490? You came in 2018. Mafa said. Yes, 2018, May 20th. From what you said, your travel time is later than mine. Isn't it true? Mafa came here in May 2019 after watching Avengers 4. In other words, he watched Ant-Man 2, Captain Marvel, and Avengers 4 more than the other party. Mafa thought secretly in his heart. Mafa, from Su Province, China, came here after watching Captain Marvel. The time of his travel is 2008. Mafa introduced himself according to Cheng Long's format, but he did not tell her all the information. As the saying goes, you should not have the intention to harm others, but you should be on guard against others. The other party came to this world hundreds of years earlier than me, and the advantages accumulated are far beyond my reach. In this case, it is better to hide some information just in case. Marfa thought to herself. Captain Marvel? What is that? Did Captain America change his name? Or is it a new hero? Hearing an unfamiliar term, Cheng Long naturally became interested. Haven't you lived from 1490 to now? Haven't you heard of Captain Marvel? Marfa frowned and said. I haven't read the comics, and should I know? Cheng Long was confused when he heard this. In fact, it's no wonder that he didn't know. Carol Danvers and Nick Fury didn't make much noise at the beginning, and the final battle with the Kree was also a case of thunder and rain. In addition, Big Mom's strength was 2 supermetal, and she easily passed the level. The most important thing is that Captain Marvel's storyline is around 1990, and there was no internet technology at this time. Information is blocked and communication is extremely lagging. Even the witnesses were only a few dozen people. As for Nick Fury, he has kept his mouth shut since then, and he didn't even put Big Mom's file into the SHIELD archives. It can be said that the existence of Captain Marvel is unknown to the entire Earth. This can be seen from Alexander Pierce's rash launch of the Insight Project. If Hydra knew the existence of Captain Marvel, before attacking Nick Fury, they would try their best to get the single-line communicator in Nick Fury's hand. Otherwise, once the Black Salted Egg contacted Big Mom, what would Hydra do to resist Big Mom's anger? With Carol Danvers' strength, if there is no superpower to stop her, she can completely sweep the entire Earth by herself. Even if the entire Avengers is counted, the only ones who can compete with it are probably the Hulk in a rage, Wanda who has learned the forbidden spell, Thor who has an axe and awakened his deep blood, and Steven with the time gem in his hand. As for the Ancient One, she doesn't care who rules the Earth, as long as the balance of the multiverse is not broken and no one harms the Earth itself and its ecological structure. The Ancient One basically won't take action. This is like a group of ants fighting for a nest. Will humans take action? Therefore, it is obvious that except for Nick Fury and Maria Rambeau and her daughter, no one on Earth knows that there is a Captain Marvel. Or no one knows Carol's true strength. Well, It seems that you really don't know. In that case, I'll tell you. After that, Marfa found a seat and sat down, briefly recounting the plot of Captain Marvel, and also finished the plot of Ant-Man 2. Half an hour later, Chang Long looked at Marfa with a burning gaze. So, the opportunity to defeat Thanos lies in Ant-Man and Captain Marvel. Chang Long said with a serious face. That should be the case. Although I haven't read Marvel Comics, I know that Marvel Comics was originally called Marvel Comics, but later it was renamed for some unknown reason. Since Captain Marvel is worthy of the word Marvel, she is obviously treated like a daughter. If anyone else can compete with Thanos, who always has 6 Infinity Stones at that time, it is probably only her. Marfa said along with Chang Long's thoughts. In fact, anyone who has seen Avengers 4 will know that it is not the case at all. Thanos is obsessed with family planning and destroyed the Infinity Stones shortly after snapping his fingers. He was also double-backed, making his body fragile. At that time, Marfa was confident that she could kill Thanos by herself. What about you? You came so early before me. Tell me the information you have. Since it was a meeting between fellow villagers, of course it was impossible for Marfa to be the only one talking for a long time. Well, I'm different from you. I came earlier. But at first, I didn't realize my mission. It wasn't until I saw Kaiach blocking the bullet with the car door that I realized that this was the Marvel world. After that, I put most of my thoughts and energy on how to deal with Thanos and why I traveled here. Fortunately, for some reason, I know the reason for everything. Cheng Long said slowly. What? You know why we came here? Hearing this, Marfa opened his eyes wide in an incredible look. Then he didn't say anything more and waited quietly for Cheng Long's explanation. If I'm not mistaken, you should have had a strong grudge against the legendary game before you traveled. Cheng Long said. That's right. Marfa admitted directly. Same as you, but my resentment is focused on Jackie Chan adventures. In fact, whether it is film and television works or games, they are all manifestations of human spiritual civilization, and they all carry the longing and yearning of countless people. Just like your legend, it once dominated the internet cafes all over China and even the world, and countless people were crazy about it. The same is true for Jackie Chan Adventures, which is the memory of a generation. When people like a work, a magical energy will be generated, which I call willpower. And when a work receives enough willpower, it will form an independent and real world. Just like the Marvel universe where you and I are now. It's just that with the popularization of the internet and the development of society, there are more and more new good works, such as Naruto, One Piece, and Marvel. When people chase them, their willpower will also transfer. As a result, the already formed legendary world and Jackie Chan Adventures world will not be able to maintain due to insufficient willpower. In the end, it will disappear forever as people forget. Speaking of this, Cheng Long couldn't help but feel sad, and took a sip of the tea beside him. You mean we are the ones chosen by the Legend World and Jackie Chan Adventure World, but why did they choose us, and why did we appear in Marvel? Marfa asked. Even ants try to survive, let alone a world. I don't know why we were chosen, but I know that we came here to plunder the will of the Marvel world. Only in this way can the Legend World and Jackie Chan Adventure World continue to exist, instead of disappearing forever due to the lack of willpower. Plunder willpower? World will? Could it be? At this moment, Marfa immediately thought of the grocery store owner, the archer guard, and the family in the clothing store. That's right, they seemed to be seeking help from themselves, but in fact they were trying to strengthen their own strength. Especially those NPCs in the Legend World, each one of them was like a tool. Now it seems that it is because of the lack of willpower that the individual consciousness of all NPCs can no longer be maintained. Then what should we do? This time Marfa asked a core question directly. I wore it earlier than you, and I don't know how popular Marvel will be later, but by 2018, Marvel has become a hot IP. This means that Marvel has condensed an unimaginable power of will. As this power of will becomes stronger and stronger, the Marvel universe will become more and more perfect. It is not impossible for some comic plots to appear. My existence is like a virus. As long as I exist for one day, I will continue to draw power from Marvel. After the world of Jackie Chan Adventures is continued through me, part of the power of will be manifested and fed back to me. Therefore, every 100 years, I will become stronger. Therefore, my goal or mission is to survive. Live forever, like a cancer cell, constantly extracting the power of will from the Marvel Universe and supplying it to the world of Jackie Chan adventures. Until the Marvel Universe is completely destroyed. Hiss. Hearing this, Marfa couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, which further aggravated the greenhouse effect of the Earth in the Marvel Universe. Hey, wait, mission? Could it be? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.